Chapter 441 Wrathful King Against Prajna. Kill! Came a low growl from one of the black-clad men as the four of them charged forward with spears in hand. Their aura of the Imperial Meridian realm surged, and the overlapping shadows of their spears looked overwhelming. They tore through the dark void, attacking the three commanders of Yellow Division. These four men were only at the Emperor Meridian level, but they had cultivated a powerful combined technique. For a moment, they were evenly matched with the Yellow commanders, while Su Zimo stood idle on the side. He didn't move, because he felt a presence watching him from the darkness. If he made even a slight move, the opponent would strike with full force. "Aren't you coming out to meet me?" Su Zimo said with a smile. As his voice faded, the void above the inn rippled. A figure stepped out of the air. This figure wore a white mask, and there was no aura emanating from him at all. Though no pressure could be sensed, his presence alone was suffocating. "You people from the True God cult really are hard to get rid of," Su Zimo said with a calm smile. "Since you addressed us as the True God cult, I'll leave you a complete corpse," said the masked old man indifferently. Only the members of the cult called it the True God cult. Outsiders called it the Heretic God cult. "So confident," Su Zimo chuckled and shook his head. Right after he spoke, a terrified shout rang out nearby. "Yuer, what are you doing?" Yellow Star cried out in shock. While they had been fighting together, Yellow Moon suddenly struck both Yellow Star and Yellow Sun from behind. Their bodies were sent flying, and Yellow Star looked at Yellow Moon in disbelief as blackness began to spread over his skin. "Death Shroud Poison Palm." Yellow Sun frowned as he sensed his condition. This poison suppressed spirit force and spread like a contagion. Wherever spirit force was present, the poison would corrode it completely, and it couldn't be dispelled quickly. "Moon, why?" Yellow Star ignored his injuries, staring at the woman he once admired. He had never thought the one he'd treated like family for so long would betray them. Since joining the three commanders of Yellow Division, the three had worked as a team for many years, closer than siblings. But today, everything felt like it had been hidden behind a fog. He could no longer see clearly. "You're part of the Heretic God cult?" Yellow Sun asked seriously. "I always have been," Yellow Moon said coldly after a brief silence. Hearing this, Yellow Sun fell completely silent. Yellow Star just laughed bitterly, his laughter full of pain and irony. "Kill me?" Yellow Star looked up, fearless. "Do it yourself." But Yellow Moon ignored him, turning instead to the masked elder. Respectfully, she said, "Sage Prajna, the mission is complete." "Very good." The masked elder smiled with satisfaction, then turned his gaze to Su Zimo. With a wave of his hand, boundless spirit force surged toward his palm. He brought down his hand and said, "You can go die with them." "God Meridian Realm." Su Zimo narrowed his eyes and smiled. "You might not be enough." Although he was only at the peak of the Empyrean Meridian Realm, he didn't fear ordinary God Meridian cultivators. An overwhelming aura erupted from Su Zimo as he activated the War God's 8th transformation, Blue Cloud. Azure energy surged violently, and behind him, a staircase of light extended into the heavens. It was endless, accompanied by the chanting of grand Taoist verses. Azure mist enveloped the surroundings. Su Zimo raised his hands and met the palm of Sage Prajna head-on. With a loud boom, the surrounding space shattered. The inn split cleanly down the middle. Countless energy arrows flew in all directions. Even Sage Prajna was surprised by the sheer force. "Who are you?" he asked, now taking Su Zimo seriously. "Beat me and find out," Su Zimo said with a grin. He drew his saber, the Shadow Tyrant, which sang with a sharp clang as a sea of blades surged around them like a purgatory. "Imperial Wrath." As Su Zimo shouted, his curved blade trembled in his hands. His body flushed red, his muscles bulged, and a fierce blue-horned monster, the Wrathful King, let out a furious roar. It merged with the saber, carrying endless rage and fury. The Wrathful King's blood and wrath ignited. Su Zimo's blade now carried the weight of mountains. As it came down, Everyone in the sleeping Phoenix Cry City seemed to hear a thunderclap in their ears. Thunder exploded across the sky, followed by a devastating force that destroyed everything. Seeing this, Sage Prajna took a deep breath. His expression grew solemn. He planted his left foot, lifted his right, and put his hands together in a strange gesture. Then softly uttered a single word, Prajna. As he spoke, his body began to change. His true fate appeared, and space around him shattered. With a roar, a monster appeared. It was blood-red with two sharp, curved horns. Its eyes were huge with human-like pupils. Red hair flowed from its head down its forehead. Its body was covered in thick white fur, shielding its neck entirely. Its face was gaunt, with 4 fangs and sticky saliva dripping from its mouth. So that's the legendary Prajna? Yellow Moon murmured. Prajna was a ghostly creature, born from jealousy and hatred. No one knew what the masked elder had gone through to acquire such a true fate. Everyone in the heretic god cult knew that Sage Prajna never removed his mask. Fewer than 5 people had seen his real face. As Su Zimo's saber descended with infinite force, the Prajna behind the elder opened its eyes. It roared, its face twisted in rage, looking as if it were laughing and crying at the same time. Its eyes turned red, and it caught the saber with its bare hands. The wrathful king roared in rage, and Prajna screamed back. They clashed, evenly matched. Seeing this, Yellow Moon raised her sword and charged toward Su Zimo. Su Zimo chuckled. Lightning surged in his eyes. A divine thunderbolt of destruction descended like a furious beast from the heavens. When the 9 heavens god lightning struck, it destroyed everything in its path. Yellow Moon's face changed drastically, and she vanished into the void. She escaped, but the Sage Prajna locked in combat with Su Zimo could not. Chapter 442, Annihilation. Seeing the 9 heavens god lightning descend like a raging flood, Sage Prajna had no way to dodge. His Prajna true fate was still clashing with Su Zimo. If he tried to evade, Su Zimo's saber strike would land. He hadn't expected Su Zimo to have such an unpredictable move. The divine thunder struck swiftly, giving him no time to react. When the thunderstorm hit Sage Prajna like a beast, Su Zimo could see his flesh torn apart. Yet the elder only grunted, suppressing any screams. Thunderclouds roared above, and countless arcs of purple lightning filled the air. With a loud boom, the 9 heavens god lightning pierced through Sage Prajna, blasting a bloody hole through his chest. His mask shattered into pieces. What appeared was an extremely aged, lifeless face. "It's you!" Yellow Star exclaimed in shock upon seeing him. This was the old man they had stood up for at the pharmacy earlier. In that moment, Yellow Star and the others realized they had walked into a trap. The elder didn't respond. He was gravely wounded. Not just physically, his true fate, Prajna, had also been destroyed by Su Zimo. He coughed up several mouthfuls of blood, looking calmly at Su Zimo. Su Zimo approached step by step with the Shadow Tyrant in hand. Looking down at the elder, he smiled faintly. "You didn't think it would end like this, did you? I expected this. From the moment I joined the True God cult, I was ready for such an end," the elder said calmly. Su Zimo looked into the elder's eyes. There was no fear, just like dead water, murky and still. "Sometimes, death is a kind of release," the elder said quietly. No one knew his story, and he had no reason to tell it. Maybe with his death, everything could be buried for good. "Brother Su, wait!" Yellow Sun called out quickly when he sensed Su Zimo's killing intent. "He's one of the 7 Vajras of the heretic god cult. Bringing him back would be a huge blow to them." Su Zimo didn't respond. He could feel the man's spirit had long been dead. Even if they brought him back to the Empire, they would get nothing out of him. Whether the elder lived or died made no difference to Su Zimo. He turned his eyes toward Yellow Moon. She held her sword cautiously, watching him closely. "She's yours," Su Zimo said to Yellow Star and Yellow Sun. Then he stepped back, watching with interest. Though the Death Shroud poison was powerful, it could only restrain Saint Vane cultivators temporarily. After purging the poison, Yellow Star and Yellow Sun spat out a mouthful of black blood, and their complexions improved. The two stood, looking at Yellow Moon with mixed emotions. "Why did you betray us?" Yellow Star asked sorrowfully. "I didn't betray you. From the start, I was a member of the True God cult," Yellow Moon said calmly, lowering her sword. "So you were a spy from the start?" Yellow Sun said, shaking his head. 100 years ago, although against the Tranquil Prince we lost that war, the Empire had already been riddled with our influence. When the time comes, we'll bring this shaky empire to ruin," Yellow Moon said coldly. "Come back and see the Emperor with us?" Yellow Sun sighed. "No need." Yellow Moon shook her head lightly. "Do you still have a choice?" Yellow Star asked. "Don't resist. For the sake of our friendship, I won't hurt you." Yellow Moon smiled and didn't speak again. Suddenly, her face turned black, and she coughed up a mouthful of blood. Her skin blackened at a visible speed. Her eyes sank, her skin peeled away, and she seemed to age hundreds of years in an instant. "Moon!" Yellow Star and Yellow Sun cried out, rushing to hold her frail, weak body. "What's happening?" Yellow Sun asked urgently. After examining her, he looked at her with sorrow. "You've been poisoned with gelsemium." "I took it myself," Yellow Moon said with a smile. Her smile looked eerie against her dying body. "Is there a cure?" Yellow Star asked Yellow Sun anxiously. "If it had been caught early, maybe. But now, it's too late." Yellow Sun shook his head. "Why?" Yellow Star asked Yellow Moon, holding back his tears. "I was planted as a spy in the Empire by the True God cult. At first, I was just gathering intel," Yellow Moon said with a bitter smile. She coughed blood as she spoke, looking pitiful. "At death's door, the truth comes out. Then I met you all. The journey we shared was the happiest time of my life. We're not made of stone, we all have feelings. I planned to take poison after your deaths. I couldn't live on with that guilt. But now that I see you're alive, I'm happy. I'm sorry." With that, her arms went limp, and her body began to rot and stink. Yellow Star watched as the person in his arms dissolved into a pool of pus, powerless to stop it. He cried out in anguish. Sage Prajna's lifeless eyes stared blankly as Su Zimo bound him with the immortal suppression chain. Yellow Star stood silently before the puddle of rot for a long time, then slowly walked out. "Where are you going?" Yellow Sun called after him. "To kill them all," Yellow Star said, leaving only 2 words as his figure vanished into the night. At the city lord's mansion, Luo Xiong was on edge, waiting anxiously for news. He'd heard the commotion from the battle but didn't dare go out. No matter which side he chose now, there would be no good outcome. Just as he was pacing in worry, screams suddenly erupted outside. It sounded like his servants. "Who's there?" Luo Xiong cried out in panic. The door burst open, and a blood-covered figure stood at the threshold. For the people of Phoenix Cry City, it was a sleepless night. Screams and explosions echoed from all over the city. But no one dared leave their homes, afraid of getting caught in the chaos. The screaming didn't stop until just before dawn. As morning came, the gray light in the sky slowly turned into a purple sun. Chapter 443, Phoenix Wing City. The city lord's mansion was wiped out. This was what many city residents saw when they got up in the morning. The once grand and luxurious estate was now a pile of ruins. The city lord and his son had vanished without a trace. Everyone in the city was talking about it, with all kinds of rumors going around. But most citizens were celebrating. After all, the city lord had ruled Phoenix Cry City with cruelty, and his spoiled son was equally hated. So this outcome made everyone happy. What people really cared about now was what kind of person the next city lord would be. Early the next morning, Su Zimo and the others prepared to leave with Sage Prajna in custody. They would use the teleportation array to head to Phoenix Wing City, capital of the Phoenix Perch Empire. Yellow Sun looked upset. He said to Yellow Star, "You were too reckless last night." "If I hadn't been reckless, then what?" Yellow Star replied. Well, we caught Sage Prajna. His Majesty probably won't punish us. Yellow Sun sighed. That was all thanks to Brother Su. We didn't do much, Yellow Star clarified. I know, Yellow Sun nodded, not arguing the point. The group arrived at Phoenix Cry City's teleportation array. No one dared to stop them. Another long stretch of time-space travel began. The Phoenix Perch Empire was vast, and the distance from Phoenix Cry City to Phoenix Wing City was long. After about half a month, they finally arrived at Phoenix Wing City, known as the #1 city in the Empire. Along the way, Sage Prajna followed them like a walking corpse. During the journey, Yellow Star had asked him a few questions, but the elder said nothing. Unlike the teleportation arrays in other cities, Phoenix Wing Cities was built outside the city. Because the array saw heavy use, all sorts of people and even other races came through it. So the Empire set aside land outside the city specifically for this. When Su Zimo's vision shifted and his body lightened, he found himself in the teleportation grounds of Phoenix Wing City. Looking around, he saw that there were not just one, but dozens of teleportation arrays operating at the same time. The area was packed with people. Yellow Star and the others soon appeared beside him. Brother Su, we need to report back to the capital. Once we're done, let's meet up again, Yellow Sun said with a smile. Su Zimo just waved it off, showing he didn't care. They weren't close anyway. Whether they met again or not didn't matter, fate would decide. As they walked outside the teleportation grounds, Yellow Sun explained the place to Su Zimo. When the teleportation array was first built, it was only for travelers heading into Phoenix Wing City. But some people saw a business opportunity here. Many restaurants and inns opened branches nearby. As traffic increased, the area eventually turned into a marketplace. They walked down the main street of the market, which was lined with stalls. Suddenly, someone shouted up ahead. Make way! The horse is out of control. The people on the street panicked and quickly scattered. Su Zimo frowned and looked over. A decently decorated carriage was speeding toward them. The coachman was shouting in panic. The beast pulling the carriage had gone wild. It was a blue wolf horse, known for being fierce, fast, and strong. Only the wealthy could afford such a beast. As the blue wolf horse charged toward them, Su Zimo's expression didn't change. He drew Shadow Tyrant. A flash of light appeared, and in an instant, the horse's head was severed. The dead beast collapsed, and the carriage was thrown forward by inertia. With a loud crash, the carriage shattered into pieces. People looked closer and saw that besides the coachman, there was a young girl inside. Ow, that hurt! The girl groaned as she stood up, rubbing her head. Miss, are you all right? The coachman asked as he rushed to her, ignoring his own injuries. You useless dog! How are you driving? The girl shouted, kicking the coachman hard in the stomach. He screamed in pain and curled up on the ground, clearly hurt. Still angry, the girl pulled out a flaming red whip from her storage ring and began lashing the coachman, ignoring his cries. Each lash of the whip burned with flames. The surrounding crowd began to murmur. Who is this girl? So arrogant, someone asked. Shu, lower your voice. That's the little princess of the Wan clan. You trying to get yourself killed. Hearing that, the man quickly shrank back. Even newcomers to Phoenix Wing City knew some things. In the Phoenix Perch Empire, aside from the imperial family, the two most powerful clans were the Wan clan and the Wunrin clan. They were like ancient giants standing tall across time. These two clans were so powerful that their influence rivaled that of the imperial family. Though they lived within the empire's lands, they didn't take orders from anyone. Of course, they still obeyed the empire's laws. As the coachman's flesh was torn open, he looked utterly pitiful. Still not satisfied, the girl turned and shouted, Who killed my blue wolf horse just now? People in the crowd whispered among themselves. Some already looked toward Su Zimo. Su Zimo didn't mind. He stepped forward calmly and asked, I killed it. What of it? The girl didn't speak. She raised her flaming whip and struck at him. A flash of killing intent passed through Su Zimo's eyes. He glanced at the space beside her. Someone was hiding there, likely her bodyguard. Yellow Star stepped forward and caught the whip with one hand. He looked at the girl and said coldly, "Miss Wan, the horse was out of control. We killed it to protect you. Please don't make trouble." "And who do you think you are to lecture me?" the girl sneered. "Third Division of the Empire," Yellow Star replied, showing his badge. The moment the badge appeared, the whole crowd gasped. Chapter 444, Slaying the Elder. The 3rd Division, as one of the 7 divisions, held great prestige in the entire Phoenix Perch Empire. They governed regions across the empire and essentially acted on behalf of the emperor. Few dared to provoke them. This was a confrontation between the Phoenix Perch Empire and the Wan clan. The young girl frowned slightly. She must have heard of the 7 divisions before. "He's also one of the 7 divisions?" she asked, pointing at Su Zimo. Yellow Sun's face shifted slightly before he replied, "He's our friend." "Then this has nothing to do with the 3rd Division," the girl snorted coldly. She raised her whip again and lashed it directly at Su Zimo. Yellow Sun tried to stop her again, but Su Zimo blocked him. With a flash of his figure, Su Zimo appeared right in front of the girl. No one saw what happened, only the sound of a blade being drawn rang out with a sharp clang. Time seemed to freeze at that moment. The blade was just a few centimeters from the girl's neck. Then a large hand suddenly caught the blade. A warm summer breeze stirred the girl's sideburns. She trembled as she stared at Su Zimo. An old man had appeared beside her without anyone noticing. If not for his hand stopping the blade, the girl's head would have already hit the ground. "You dare kill me?" she asked in disbelief, her voice shaking. Su Zimo ignored her and looked indifferently at the old man. The old man was also at the Empyrean Meridian level. Su Zimo hadn't used full strength earlier. Otherwise, the old man wouldn't have blocked it so easily. "Uncle Wan," the girl called out. "Step back." The old man nodded and replied. He turned to Su Zimo and said calmly, "Young man, you carry too much killing intent." "So what?" Su Zimo replied with a light smile. "This isn't a place where you can act recklessly." The old man snorted and struck with his right palm. Purple spirit force surged from his palm, thick and clearly carrying lethal intent. Su Zimo's eyes narrowed slightly. Threads of creation power wrapped around the tip of his blade. The Shadow Tyrant cut through the air, slashing forward with sharp energy. With a loud bang, the old man screamed as he was sent flying backward. His right palm was severed, and blood splattered in the air. "You?" The old man, ignoring his injuries, looked at Su Zimo in shock. Su Zimo walked toward him step by step, holding the Shadow Tyrant. He made no effort to hide his killing intent. The blade trembled slightly. "Brother Su, just teach him a lesson and let it go. He is from the Wan clan, after all," Yellow Sun said, trying to dissuade him. He knew how powerful the Wan clan was and didn't want more trouble. "I'm a fair person. He tried to kill me, so he should be ready to be killed," Su Zimo said calmly. "This has nothing to do with you." As Su Zimo advanced, the old man's expression changed slightly. Still, he shielded the girl behind him, watching Su Zimo warily. "Cousin Zimo?" Suddenly, a loud voice came from the side. A fat man in white ran over, his belly jiggling like a mountain of meat. "Cousin Suo." Su Zimo turned to look and called out in surprise. This was Wunrin Suo, the son of his second uncle Wunrin Zhao. Su Zimo remembered playing with him when they were kids, but they hadn't seen each other in years. If not for his signature small eyes and round belly, Su Zimo might not have recognized him. "Cousin Zimo, it's really you," Wunrin Suo said with a laugh. "You've changed a lot. I almost didn't recognize you. We'll talk later. Let me handle this first." Su Zimo smiled. "What's going on?" Wunrin Suo turned to look, squinting his already tiny eyes into slits. Seeing the scene, the crowd suddenly understood. So he's from the Wunrin clan. That explains why he's not afraid of the Wan clan. This is going to be interesting. The Wunrin and Wan clans have always been at odds. Everyone in the Phoenix Perch Empire knew the two most powerful clans, Wunrin and Wan, had been fighting for thousands of years. There had been endless conflicts between their younger generations, even causing several deaths. Well, isn't this the Wan clan's steward? What a sorry sight. Wanren Suo laughed at the old man. Wanren Suo, is your Wanren clan trying to start a war with us? The old man growled. Start a war, then. You think you're still the ruling clan of the empire? Wanren Suo sneered. Then he turned to Su Zimo and asked with a smile, Are these the two you were talking about? Yes. But don't worry. I'll handle it my way. Su Zimo nodded. Wanren Suo gave a slight nod and stepped aside, but still gave a reminder. If possible, don't kill the girl. Their old master will go crazy. Now's not the time for war. Su Zimo didn't respond. He simply advanced with the Shadow Tyrant in hand. His power and aura grew stronger with every step. By the end, his momentum was like a violent storm. The space around him shattered, and the ground cracked underfoot. The Wan clan elder took a deep breath and finally gave in. What do you want? I'll admit defeat. Just tell me your price. Su Zimo smiled as his blade trembled. I already told you, since you tried to kill me, you can't leave alive. I'm a fair man. As he finished speaking, the Wan elder suddenly erupted and charged at Su Zimo with a roar. His face twisted in fury as he shouted, Then die! Dumbass! Su Zimo's aura had reached a critical point. He lifted the Shadow Tyrant overhead and unleashed the 12th form, Void Oblivion. Blade energy surged into the sky, tearing through the heavens. As the blade fell, the Wan elder didn't even have time to dodge. He was obliterated in the blade's energy. Chapter 445 Grandfather Wanren Jingshi. The elder's body was shredded by the blade's energy, leaving not even a trace of bone, completely turned to dust. You killed Uncle Wan. The Wan clan girl behind him turned pale, staring at Su Zimo in terror as if seeing a demon. She quickly backed away. I won't kill you, but you should still pay a price, Su Zimo said calmly. He walked toward the girl, leaving her with nowhere to retreat. He raised his right leg and kicked her into the air. The force wasn't fatal, but it shattered her bones. The pain alone was unbearable for an average person. Even if the Wan clan saved her later, she would likely be traumatized. The surrounding crowd was completely silent, unable to speak from the shock. Only Wanren Suo clapped and cheered at the side. Cousin Zimo, let's hurry home. Grandpa's been talking about you lately. Worried something might have happened on the road? Wanren Suo walked up with a smile. Su Zimo then introduced the two members of the 3rd Division to Wanren Suo. From the looks of it, Wanren Suo was quite familiar with the 7 divisions as well. Since the 3rd Division needed to report back to the Imperial Palace, they parted ways with Su Zimo after reaching Phoenix Wing City. Speaking of Phoenix Wing City, it was one of the most famous cities in the northern continent. As for how big it truly was, it's said that a regular person could walk along the outer wall for months and still not reach the end. From afar, the grand city stood tall upon the vast land. Its walls were made of greenstone, with a large gate on each side, north, south, east, and west. Each main gate had multiple smaller gates within hundreds or even thousands of meters. The city wall extended southeast and eventually vanished into the horizon. From a bird's-eye view, the layout of the city was simple. The north housed the royal family. The east was controlled by the Wan clan, while the west belonged to the Wanren clan. The south was home to scattered cultivators and various other powers. There were 3 superpowers in this city, its strength unimaginable. Led by Wanren Suo, Su Zimo passed through the west gate and entered the Wanren estate. Su Zimo noticed many people along the way were familiar with Wanren Suo and greeted him warmly. No one stopped them. The Wanren clan was situated at the center of the western part of the city. Unlike the side branches, this area was home to direct descendants. The Wanren estate had been lively recently due to the upcoming birthday celebration of the patriarch, Wanren Jingshi. Powerful figures from within the Phoenix Perch Empire and from other nations brought gifts to celebrate. Under Wanren Suo's lead, Su Zimo planned to visit his grandfather immediately. A large plaque hung above the greenwood gate of the estate. The characters Wanren Residence were written in gold, glinting under the sun. The estate covered a vast area, surrounded by all kinds of spirit trees. As the two walked inside, they soon heard a voice nearby. "Suwa, with Grandpa's birthday coming up, you should stay close to home." Wanren Suwa paused and turned to the side. In a nearby pavilion stood 3 young men. The 2 on the sides seemed to be side-branch descendants, clearly flattering the man in the middle. The central youth wore a purple robe. He stood tall, reading a book in hand. He had sharp features, his long hair tied neatly in a bun, and deep, unreadable eyes. Seeing him, Wanren Suwa sighed and said helplessly, "Got it, big bro. Who's that?" The youth looked at Su Zimo and asked curiously, "That's Aunt Wanren Yun's son, Su Zimo. You probably didn't see him when we were kids, since you weren't around much," Wanren Suwa explained. Then he introduced him to Su Zimo. "This is my big brother, Wanren Li. He's also your cousin." "So your cousin Zimo?" Wanren Li smiled and said, "Since it's your first time back here, so we'll show you around. First, go visit Grandpa." "Thank you, Cousin Li," Su Zimo nodded. Then Wanren Suwa led him deeper into the estate. Su Zimo had no impression of Wanren Li. Grandfather Wanren Jingshi had 5 children in total, giving Su Zimo 2 uncles and 2 aunts. Wanren Suwa and Wanren Li were sons of his second uncle, Wanren Zhao. It was said that Wanren Li had been sent to Heavenly Dao Academy from a young age and rarely returned home. So Su Zimo had never met him, only heard his name. The Wanren clan was massive. With the uncles all having children of their own, Su Zimo had more than 10 cousins. Following Wanren Suwa further in, they saw fewer and fewer people. Eventually, it was completely quiet. "Grandpa likes peace and quiet," Wanren Suwa explained. "Unless he summons us, we rarely see him." Su Zimo nodded. As they chatted, they finally reached their destination, Serenity Pavilion. It was quiet all around, with a large pond in front. The buildings were made of purple Nanmu wood, which gave off a calming fragrance. As Wanren Suwa approached the door and tidied his clothes, preparing to knock, a deep voice rang from inside. "Come in. I haven't seen Momo in so long." Wanren Suwa pushed the door open and walked in with a grin. "Grandpa, I've mastered the meridian technique you taught me last time. Don't I deserve a reward?" But as he spoke, his expression turned flat upon seeing the room's interior. Su Zimo also entered, not having time to take in the surroundings. At the front, 2 people sat on meditation mats. One was an old man with white hair and a long white beard. The other was a young man in a blue robe. "Grandfather," Su Zimo smiled and called out when he saw the old man. "Ah!" Wanren Jingshi laughed heartily, responding as he looked at Su Zimo. "Come closer, let Grandpa have a good look. Last time your mother took you away, you were just a child. Now you've grown." Wanren Jingshi nodded with satisfaction. "It's good to see you grown up." Before Su Zimo could speak, Wanren Su's face suddenly turned sour, and he let out a heavy snort. Chapter 446, Feather Porch Pavilion. Wanren Suwa looked at the young man sitting on the other meditation cushion nearby, his expression clearly unhappy. "Grandpa, why did you let him come here?" he asked. "Tianming had some questions about martial arts and came to ask me." "What's wrong with that?" Wanren Jingshi replied calmly. "There are so many instructors in the manor. Why didn't he ask them? Why does he have to come to you?" Wanren Suwa said with dissatisfaction. "I think he just wants to show off in front of you." "Enough!" Wanren Jingshi snorted coldly. "I know what I'm doing with Tianming. His cultivation issues can't be solved by just anyone. You're all part of the same clan. You need to learn to get along. If anyone dares start infighting, I won't show mercy. This kind of precedent cannot be set." Hearing this, Wanren Suwa pouted but didn't argue further. Grandpa's words were absolute law in the Wanren clan. He also knew his grandfather was very strict about certain matters. Su Zimo glanced at the youth named Wanren Tianming. He hadn't spoken a word this entire time and hadn't even looked at Wanren Suwa, as if completely ignoring him. In his past life, Su Zimo hadn't paid much attention to his mother's side of the clan, so he didn't know much about them. Momo, since you're here, enjoy your time. Wanren Jingshi turned and smiled at Su Zimo. We're all clan, so I won't say much. If anything comes up, talk to your cousin Suo. If you're still unhappy, come straight to Grandpa. Su Zimo nodded. Seeing Wanren Suo still looking like he wanted to say something, he quickly pulled him out of the room. After they left the Serenity Pavilion, Wanren Suo still seemed upset. Cousin, why'd you stop me just now? That Wanren Tianming is just a branch descendant. Does Grandpa really think he's more important than his own grandson? Cut the nonsense. Just tell me, what's the deal with this Wanren Tianming? Su Zimo asked. What else? He's from a side branch but has good talent. So Grandpa kept him close? Wanren Suo said with frustration. What's that got to do with you? You act like you two are sworn enemies. Su Zimo laughed. Not enemies. I just can't stand the guy, Wanren Suo muttered. Su Zimo smiled, seeing through him. There was clearly a grudge there, but since Wanren Suo didn't want to explain, Su Zimo didn't push it. Wanren Suo's residence had several rooms. He arranged for Su Zimo to stay next door. The courtyard was large, surrounded by lush trees that blocked off the outer wall from view. Several rare spirit trees grew within the courtyard. After preparing the room, Wanren Suo grinned mischievously and said, Cousin, I'll take you to a nice place. You finally made it to Phoenix Wing City. I can't let you leave without having some fun. Su Zimo nodded. He had nothing else to do anyway, so he didn't mind. The two left the Wanren residence and headed north along the main street of the Eastern District. Phoenix Wing City truly lived up to its name as one of the great cities of the northern continent. Never mind the size, the prosperity alone surpassed most other cities. After walking for about 10 minutes, they reached a large plaza. Flowers and fountains decorated its perimeter, and in the center stood a statue. The statue was of a man, carved with striking realism. At a glance, he appeared to shoulder the heavens, with an awe-inspiring presence like the sea. He wore a purple robe, and his eyes were piercing. Even as a statue, one could feel as though he saw through your soul. People passed by from time to time, bowing to the statue with respect and reverence. Who is that? Su Zimo asked curiously. Wanren Suo was silent for a moment, then answered, The Heaven Prison Emperor, the founder of the Wan clan. Su Zimo had heard of him. He was an ancient emperor who bore the heavens will even earlier than Grand Emperor Sandao. Though the Wan clan was an imperial lineage, their Grand Emperor had appeared long ago, and in recent generations, their descendants lacked strength. No new emperor had risen, and the lineage had declined. Otherwise, even the Wanren clan wouldn't dare confront them directly. It was said the founding of the Phoenix Perch Empire owed much to the Wan clan. That's why statues of the Heaven Prison Emperor were erected in all four corners of Phoenix Wing City. Su Zimo looked at the statue deeply, then continued walking with Wanren Suo. They passed through several narrow alleys and eventually came to a quiet street. Shops lined both sides, but the area felt out of place with the rest of the bustling city. This is Heavenjade Street, Wanren Suo explained with a smile. Seeing Su Zimo's confused look, the shops here sell high-end goods. Ordinary people can't afford them, which is why it's so quiet. Basically, it's a street for the wealthy. Then why bring me here? Su Zimo asked. Just follow me. Wanren Suo laughed slyly and headed down the street. Su Zimo followed, glancing at the shops. They sold all kinds of rare goods, elixirs, weapons, even secret techniques and manuals. Judging from the decoration alone, these were all top-tier items. When they reached the middle of the street, Wanren Suo stopped. He tilted his head toward a nearby pavilion. Su Zimo looked over and saw the sign that read, Feather Porch Pavilion. The calligraphy was graceful and elegant, evoking a sense of floating mist. What's this place? Su Zimo asked. What do you think? Wanren Suo grinned, giving that classic look every man understands. This isn't a brothel, is it? Su Zimo asked, speechless. Can you not make it sound so vulgar? Wanren Suo replied. People have emotions and desires, it's normal. Don't act all saintly with me. I'm really not into that, Suzumo said, shaking his head. What do you mean that? This is just a relaxed place to enjoy music and food. Don't overthink it. Wanrinsa threw his arm around Suzumo's shoulder and dragged him inside. He added with a sly smile, but if you do have other needs, they'll take care of them too. Suzumo glared at him but didn't argue. You got money? Wanrinsuo asked. Suzumo looked at him in disbelief and said, Don't tell me the great young master of the Wanrin clan doesn't even have money for a meal. And I'm the guest. Should I really be treating you? Family's strict, Wanrinsuo chuckled. Next time it's on me. I promise. The two laughed and walked into Feather Porch Pavilion together. Chapter 447 Spirit Cat Race. After the two of them walked in, Suzumo realized the place was more than it seemed. A powerful person had arranged a space formation here. From the outside, the entire pavilion looked like it was only a few hundred square meters. But once inside, Suzumo found that the space had been folded, and the area was at least over 1,000 square meters. Moreover, it wasn't just a simple pavilion inside, but a full-blown garden. The garden was vast, with many rare spirit trees and mystical herbs planted. There were blood-weeping roses, purple-robed violets, scorching sun peonies, petals of various colors bloomed in competition, and the lush trees blended with the multicolored flowers. Above, flocks of butterflies danced through the air. Artificial hills and flowing water, pavilions and towers. Graceful young men in fine silk robes walked hand in hand with elegant women. The garden stretched in all directions with no end in sight. On one side of the garden there was a clear river. The river flowed gently and calmly, with lotuses and water lilies growing along both banks. Several boats floated on the river, with scrolls laid out from the bow to the stern. These scrolls told various touching and widely known love stories. There was a handsome young man and a green-haired woman standing at the bow of a boat, chatting and enjoying the scenery. Not bad, right? Wanrinsuo looked at Suzumo and said with a smile. Interesting place. Suzumo nodded slightly. Not long after they stood at the garden entrance, a curvy woman walked over. She was wearing a tight green outfit that showed off her full figure. Her looks were above average, and she carried a heavy fragrance. So it's young Master Suo. It's been a while since you came. The woman looked at Suzumo and smiled. This young man must be here for the first time. He's my cousin. I brought him to have a look around. Don't worry about it. Wanrinsuo waved his hand and said, Then I hope you both have fun. The woman smiled and didn't say much more. Before leaving, she suddenly remembered something, turned around, and said to Wanrinsuo, Young Master Su, Lady Siener is hosting a martial Dao gathering in the garden today. Don't say I didn't remind you. Sounds like she's hit a bottleneck again. Wanrinsuo muttered to himself. Then he smiled at the woman and said, Thanks for the reminder, Miss Ju. The woman nodded, and before leaving, she threw a flirtatious glance at Suzumo. Cousin, go ahead and enjoy yourself here. You can head back to Wanrin Estate when you're tired. No need to wait for me, Wanrinsuo said to Suzumo. Go find your Lady Siener, Suzumo said with a smile. What Lady Siener? Just one of many prospects. Wanrinsuo laughed and shook his head. He pulled out a fan from his storage ring and walked ahead with a grin. Watching Wanrinsuo's departing figure, Suzumo felt that his fat body didn't fit this elegant environment at all. After Wanrinsuo left, Suzumo took a different path. He walked forward, the scent of flowers filling the air. The scenery was indeed beautiful. Are you alone, young master? Not long after, he was approached by a woman in a blue robe, smiling sweetly at him. Do you need something? Suzumo asked. With the birds singing and flowers blooming here, don't you think it would be nicer with a beauty by your side? The woman in blue moved closer, her body leaning slightly towards Suzumo, and her fragrance was very strong. I'm used to being alone. Suzumo smiled and shook his head. The woman looked at him in surprise, not understanding why he would come to a place like this alone. But she didn't ask, only smiled and walked away. Along the way, Suzimo encountered 4 or 5 other women with the same intention, all of whom he turned down. Tired of the scenery, Suzimo looked around. Not far from the bushes, there was a smooth stone. He simply lay on it and took a nap. He planned to return to Wonrin Estate when it got dark. Meanwhile, Suzimo's consciousness entered his True Fate world. His True Fate world had basically stabilized by now, and the Tree of Forgetfulness was slowly recovering. The sea around it had begun to turn dark yellow, gradually evolving into Yellow Springs water. The ecosystem brought by the Tree of Life had spread throughout the God world. There were normal trees, as well as spiritual trees and mystical herbs. Some trees had even begun to awaken, gaining simple awareness and moving toward becoming tree demons. The myriad beast realm established by chaos was thriving, and the 100 dragon gods had entered their growth phase. They soared through clouds, summoned lightning and thunder, and could even influence the weather. Suzimo checked his True Fate world and, seeing no problems, left it at ease. When he opened his eyes, he saw a hand waving in front of him. He calmly looked at the hand, then turned his head. The hand belonged to a little girl. Seeing Suzimo suddenly wake up, the girl blushed, let out a soft squeak, and transformed into a white cat, running away. The cat was twice the size of a normal one, pure white like a snowball, with not a single blemish. It hid in the nearby bushes, peeking its little head out to look at Suzimo. After confirming he meant no harm, it cautiously and carefully came closer again. It turned back into a girl and said softly, "Hello!" Only then did Suzimo get a good look at the girl. Her human form wasn't fully human. Her ears were still cat-shaped, and her big eyes sparkled with spirit. When she smiled or spoke, a small dimple appeared on her right cheek. She had a slightly high nose bridge and cherry lips. "Spirit cat race?" Suzimo asked curiously. The girl shyly nodded, then asked curiously, "Why are you here alone?" "Sleeping," Suzimo replied calmly. "Oh." The girl nodded, then looked up at him with hopeful eyes and asked, "Can you play with me?" "Play what?" "Hide and seek." "Not interested." "Then can you take me to see the outside world?" she asked unwillingly. "The outside world is full of fighting, deception, and betrayal. Compared to the peace here, what's so good about it?" Suzimo said, "But I'm tired of staying here. I want to see what the outside world is like." The girl replied seriously, "Oh? Then what benefit do I get from taking you out?" Suzimo turned his head and asked with a smile. Chapter 448, Lady Xian. "I can give you spirit stones," the cat girl said cautiously after thinking for a while.
No.
"Unless you have something that truly moves me." Suzimo shook his head slightly. "Then what do you want?" the cat-eared girl asked hesitantly. Let me pinch your ears," Suzimo said playfully, clearly interested. The girl's face instantly turned red, like a ripe apple. That's not allowed," she stammered. "Auntie said only my future husband can touch my ears." "Then forget it." Suzimo waved his hand and lay back on the stone, pretending to nap again. After a long while, Suzimo felt someone poking him with a finger. He turned his head and saw the girl crouching beside him, her face blushing as she said shyly, "I'll let you touch them, but you can't tell anyone." Suzimo chuckled, looking just like a mischievous uncle luring a little girl. He nodded and looked at the soft, cute cat ears, then reached out to pinch them. Suddenly, a loud shout came from the nearby forest. "Scoundrel! Don't touch that girl!" Along with the voice, a blazing red fireball shot toward them. Suzimo glanced at the fireball, clenched his right fist, and with spirit force swirling around, punched it head-on. With a bang, the fireball shattered. At that exact moment, Suzimo used his left hand to lightly pinch the girl's cat ear. "Meow!" The girl's face turned bright red, and she let out a cat-like cry. As the dust from the explosion settled, a woman in a red robe walked out from the nearby forest. "Auntie," the cat-eared girl called out timidly when she saw her. "A Jew! Come here," the woman said sternly. keeping a watchful eye on Suzimo while calling the girl over. The girl looked very nervous, her face even redder than before. She mumbled under her breath, "What should I do? My ears were touched. Will Auntie make me marry him? Just keep that to yourself. Do you have to say it out loud?" Suzimo glanced at her and said helplessly. He didn't want to get into trouble just for pinching some ears out of curiosity. "Oh, okay," the girl replied, her face burning hot, not even daring to look Suzimo in the eye. She had always been alone growing up and had never spoken much with men, let alone let someone touch her ears. "Who let you come out here?" the woman asked sternly once the girl had come over, clearly relieved Suzimo hadn't done anything more. I just wanted to see the outside world," the girl replied, lowering her head in frustration. The woman wanted to scold her more, but seeing her about to cry, she just sighed. Turning to Suzimo, she said, "Young master, I hope you'll forget everything you saw today." With that, she pulled the unwilling girl along and walked back into the depths of the forest. Suzimo didn't say anything more. The girl was interesting, but that was all. That woman was also from the spirit cat race. Suzimo didn't know much about the spirit cat race, just another small and insignificant race. Like most of the thousands of minor races, they were ordinary. He had wanted to nap a little longer, but a noisy group of people came down the nearby path. They were loud enough that Suzimo lost any desire to rest. Even from far away, he could hear his cousin Wanrinsua's booming voice. "What's the big deal? Whatever Lady Sienna wants, I'll find it for her once I get back." "Faster than you for sure," Wanrinsua said indignantly. "Then I'll thank you in advance, young Master Suwa," came a girl's voice from afar. It sounded refreshing and lovely, very pleasant to the ears. "Then I'll be waiting for good news from you, Brother Suwa. Don't just talk big," a man beside her said mockingly. Suzimo turned to look and saw a group of about a dozen people. At the front stood Wanrinsua and a young man in blue. Surrounding them, a group of youths crowded around a young woman like stars around the moon. She wore a long green dress that flowed like a lotus flower, gently spreading outward. Her waist was covered a bit loosely, so her figure couldn't be clearly seen. But her skin was fair, her eyes bright and lively, with a slightly mischievous look. She had delicate features, cherry lips, arched brows, and long white hair. Her snow-white hair reached down to her waist, adding an unusual charm to her aura. As the group passed by, Wanrinso noticed Suzimo reclining on the stone and quickly shouted, "Cousin!" Suzimo slowly sat up, and instantly all eyes turned to him. "Done with your date with Lady Sienna?" Suzimo asked with a smile. "You can see we're a perfect match, right?" Wanrinsua laughed. "But don't get the wrong idea. We're just friends. Like cousin, like brother," the man in blue said with a hint of disdain. His expression looked a bit sour. "Talking like that about Lady Sienna before anything's confirmed doesn't seem appropriate." "Exactly," a few other young men muttered quietly, though they didn't dare say much due to the Wanren clan's status. Wan Hong, Lady Sienna herself, didn't say anything. "Why are you acting like a busybody?" Wanrinsua snorted coldly. All this while, Lady Sienna simply smiled calmly and didn't say a word. Her dark eyes, full of curiosity, stayed fixed on Suzimo. Seeing that Wanrinsua and Wan Hong were about to argue, maybe even fight, Lady Sienna finally smiled and said softly, "It's getting dark. Gentlemen, you should head back." "Lady Sienna, just wait. I'll find the dragon tail flower you wanted as soon as possible," Wanrinsua said, glaring at Wan Hong before turning to her. Then some servants from the garden came out and escorted the group out of Feather Porch. After exiting, Wan Hong gave Suzimo a dark look and warned, "Watch your mouth, punk. If something happens to you, the Wanren clan won't start a war with the Wan clan over it." To Wan Hong, Suzimo was probably just a side branch of the Wanren clan. Cousin, likely. He already knew all the main clan's members. "Huh? You threatening me?" Suzimo looked at him calmly, then suddenly kicked him between his legs. It was a powerful kick and completely unexpected. Chapter 449 Scoundrels, you've gone too far. Wan Hong didn't even have time to react before a sharp pain reached him. He let out a scream and was sent flying. His body slammed heavily into a roadside stall. The vendor had already gone home, leaving behind an empty stone table. Upon impact, the entire table shattered into several pieces. A few sharp pieces of the stone table even pierced into Wan Hong's back. He coughed up several mouthfuls of blood and looked at Su Zimo with an angry expression. You're asking for death. Cousin, should I kill him or cripple him? Su Zimo turned to Wanren Suo and asked. He's a direct descendant of the Wan clan. Killing him would be a huge hassle. Wanren Su shook his head slightly. Then he smiled and walked over to Wan Hong, eyes drifting toward his lower body. With a smirk, he said, Let me cripple him instead. What are you doing? Wan Hong followed Wanren Suo's gaze and backed away in fear. But he was badly injured and could barely move. Nighttime in Phoenix Wing City had its own charm. According to Wanren Suo, even in the middle of the night, the city was brightly lit and bustling with life. That was the prosperity of a major city. Besides Heaven Jade Street, the other main streets were packed with people. Vendors selling all sorts of goods took turns hawking their wares. Wooden carts selling candied hawthorn rolled from one end of the street to the other. Pedestrians laughed and chatted as they strolled around. Cousin, let me tell you, Wanren Su said as they walked. If Grandpa ever asks about what happened today, you have to say Wan Hong struck first. Don't drag me into it. You'll be gone soon, so it won't affect you. But if Grandpa finds out I was involved, just being grounded would be the least of it. You might never see your dear cousin again. Believe it or not, it won't be long before that old man from the Wan clan comes knocking at our door demanding justice. Su Zimo glanced at Wanren Suo speechlessly. Of course the Wan clan would come, who told him to attack there of all places. When things quiet down in a few days, I'll spread the story all over the city, Wanren Su said with glee. Let's see if he still dares to compete with me for Lady Siener. You talk like without Wan Hong, you'd actually win her, Su Zimo replied flatly. What? Don't believe in me? Wanren Suo snorted. Your cousin has seen it all, been through countless women without a care. You're still too young. So what's Lady Siener's background? Su Zimo asked. Not too sure. Wanren Suo shook his head. Seems to have something to do with the spirit cat race, but I don't know much. You don't know anything, and yet you claim to be madly in love? Su Zimo said, exasperated. I just love her body. As for her past, I don't care. It's not like I'm going to marry her. Why bother learning more? Wanren Suo replied casually. Su Zimo gave him a surprised look. Wow. Didn't expect you to have the potential to be such a scumbag. Hey, don't say that. I'm just emotionally generous. Wanren Suo waved his hand humbly. The two joked and laughed all the way back to Wanren Estate. Meanwhile, over at the Wan clan's residence, the atmosphere in the meeting hall was heavy. Grandpa, that's basically what happened. A girl stood in the middle of the hall, speaking with a mix of grievance and fear. If Wanren Suo hadn't shown up in time, I think that guy would have killed me too. If Su Zimo were here, he would have recognized this girl as the one he met earlier at the market. The hall was oddly quiet. At the top seat sat an elderly man in green robes. To his left and right were 10 people, some of the Wan clan patriarch's sons, others respected elders. After listening to the girl, the elderly man remained silent, deep in thought. His right hand tapped lightly on the edge of the table beside his chair. In the quiet hall, the tapping was especially loud, echoing like it struck the soul. Patriarch, I say we must demand an explanation from the Wanren clan. An elder stood up angrily. Otherwise, people will think the Wan clan is afraid of them. You really believe what Chinger said? The old man gave the elder a cold glance. Then he looked at the girl with a gentler expression and asked, Chinger, be honest with Grandpa. Did you start it? The girl hesitated, then muttered, The Blue Wolf horse went out of control. He killed it, and I just got upset. That's enough. This matter ends here, the old man said. waving off the others who still wanted to speak. He closed his eyes again, clearly waiting for everyone to leave. Just then, a servant rushed in, panicked. "Master, something terrible has happened. What's the rush? Have some manners." The second elder on the left stood up, still annoyed from earlier. The servant shrank back and quickly said, "Young Master Hong is hurt." "What?" That night, the stars sparkled and the moon was round. From the western part of Phoenix Wing City came a furious roar. "You Wunren scoundrels, you've gone too far." Everyone turned in confusion toward the west. That was where the Wan clan was. The Wan clan patriarch looked at the unconscious Wan Hong in front of him and ignored the furious elders around him. He waved his hand and said, "Take Honger down. Feed him a rebuild body pill. Tomorrow we're going to the Wunren estate to get answers. Otherwise, I'll turn that birthday feast into a bloodbath." After speaking, the old man motioned for everyone to leave. Once he was alone in the hall, spiritual energy surged around him. A portal appeared in front of him, and he stepped inside, disappearing. The Wan clan patriarch's name was Wan Shonyan. In his youth, he was a well-known figure in Phoenix Wing City. People praised him, good clan background, great talent, enviable by many. But only he knew the truth. This imperial lineage of his was already in decline. He wasn't some once-in-a-millennium genius and couldn't save the Wan clan. After entering the portal, he appeared in a pitch-black space. The space was boundless, and nothing could be seen. But strangely, a floating black coffin stood out clearly above. It was also black, yet its darkness was different, unnaturally noticeable. Chapter 450 Wan clan arrives. Wan Shonyan slowly walked to the black coffin. Dark black mist coiled around the coffin, floating and gathering to form various patterns and shapes. "You're here." After a long time, an old voice came from within the coffin. The coffin slowly descended. Wan Shonyan nodded, then sat beside the coffin and let out a long sigh. "Having trouble making another decision?" the old man inside the coffin asked with a faint smile. "Today, one of our direct clan members had a conflict with the Wunren clan and was beaten, nearly crippled," Wan Shonyan said with a frown. "Did any elders from the Wunren clan step in?" the old man asked curiously. "No, it seems it was a conflict between the younger generation over something that happened at Feather Porch," Wan Shonyan replied, shaking his head. "Are the younger generation this disappointing?" The old man in the coffin chuckled. "So what are you worried about? I always believed the younger ones should handle their own affairs. But this time, the Wunren kid went too far. Honger's body was nearly ruined. Thankfully, we still had a rebuild body pill," Wan Shonyan said hesitantly. "If we don't react to this incident, what will the rest of Phoenix Wing City think? They'll believe our Wan clan is afraid of the Wunren clan." "Then do what your heart tells you," the old man replied from inside the coffin. "But I'm struggling with where to draw the line," Wan Shonyan said thoughtfully. "If they're willing to apologize and compensate, that's one thing. But what if they refuse? Are we really going to go to war with the Wunren clan? You're the current patriarch. It's up to you," the old man explained. "You know our Wan clan's recent situation, its decline, a slow death. If we really go to war, breaking and rebuilding might not be a bad thing. But I fear we'll break without being able to rebuild. Don't forget that the Phoenix Perch Empire is watching us like a hawk. If you don't want to fight, then go to the Wunren clan, lower your demands a bit, and let both sides save face. Times have changed. So much in this world shifts so quickly," Wan Shonyan murmured after a long silence. He closed his eyes, immersing his mind in the dark space around him. After a while, he let out a breath and said, "Do you still remember when our ancestor Heaven Prison Emperor was alive and had yet to ascend to the outer heavens? The world celebrated us. Who dared to look down on the Wan clan back then? In those days of our glory, the Wunren clan was nothing more than a struggling little tribe of peasants. The Wan clan's decline isn't the fault of your generation," the old man in the coffin sighed. "It's we elders who failed to pass on the glory. You've done well enough. Can our Wan clan contend for heaven's will this time?" Wan Shonyan asked softly. What future path should we take? So you've decided not to fight? The old man in the coffin already knew the answer. In terms of heritage, the Wonrin clan now is no weaker than us, Wan Shonyan replied. Besides, Wonrin Jingshi's daughter married into the true martial sacred ground. Her husband is even the vice lord. We can't win against that. The Wonrin clan isn't our main enemy. If necessary, they could even become allies, the coffin elder said. The greatest threat in the past 2 years is still the Phoenix Perch Empire. Wan Shonyan narrowed his eyes, staring into the darkness, then slowly nodded. His once sharp eyes now carried a trace of sorrow. The genius of the Phoenix Perch Empire is unmatched, especially their current monarch, a true hero of his time. That dynasty used to struggle under the influence of our 2 clans, barely surviving. But now they've completely risen. I know their ambition. From the beginning, they've aimed to rule the entire Phoenix Perch Empire, including our 2 clans. After speaking, the surroundings grew quiet. Wan Shonyan leaned against the coffin and rested for a long time, then finally stood up and headed for the spatial gate. Just as he reached the entrance, he suddenly paused. Ancestor Sky Crane, I'm tired. With those words, Wan Shonyan stepped into the spatial gate. The night passed quietly, and the morning in Phoenix Wing City looked lively. Vendors who had worked late into the night were now packing up their stalls, ready to head home and rest. Meanwhile, breakfast sellers were setting up shop, the smell of buns wafting through the streets. Su Zimo had cultivated all night and felt refreshed. He hadn't slept in a long time. At his level, most of his time was spent in comprehension and cultivation. Sleep had become something distant and unfamiliar. The previous Infernal Lord had passed down a book to him titled Demon, which contained 10 moves, each representing an ultimate domain. He was making rapid progress in mastering it. Going from the Empyrean Meridian Realm to the God Meridian Realm was not difficult for Su Zimo. What he was thinking about now was how to enter the path of Tao. Heaven's will might be important to others, but for Su Zimo it was optional. Because his cultivation was very different, others cultivated, but he was creating a world. In the future, when he entered the path of Tao, it would be the heavenly Tao of his own God world, not the heavenly Tao of the primordial heartlands. He aimed to make his world stronger and eventually the dominant one. So he didn't need destiny to step into the path of Tao. But even so, Su Zimo still wanted to contend for heaven's will in this lifetime. What's called heaven's will is actually part of the embodiment of the Grand Tao. He planned to use the already developed heavenly Tao of the primordial heartlands to refine and perfect the still immature heavenly Tao of his God world. Creating a world was far from simple, and Su Zimo took every step carefully. One wrong move could mean disaster down the road. Soon after he opened his door, Wonrin Suo also came out of the neighboring room. Cousin, eaten yet? Wonrin Suo asked. Before Su Zimo could answer, a young clan member ran in through the courtyard gate. Cousin Su, Cousin Zimo, Grandpa wants to see you. Looks like yesterday's incident got exposed. Wonrin Suo reminded Su Zimo with a grin. Remember what I told you yesterday? Don't give me away. You really think your plan from yesterday will work? Su Zimo asked with a smile. What do you mean? Wonrin Suo asked, confused. This matter isn't too big, but it's not small either. At the core, it's about clan reputation, Su Zimo replied. Since the Wan clan is here now, as long as they don't go too far, Grandpa will definitely give them a response. You mean we're still going to get punished? Wonrin Suo asked. Not we, you, Su Zimo said, pointing at him with a laugh. Sure, I'm his grandson, but I haven't seen Grandpa many times, so I'm half a guest. Unless things get really serious, he won't punish me. But you? You're a different story. Chapter 451, The Forbidden Residence. Then what do we do? Wonrin Suo, now convinced, asked anxiously. The only way is to strike first, Su Zimo said with a light smile. What do you mean? Wonrin Suo suddenly had a bad feeling. At that moment, in the Wonrin clan's discussion hall, nearly all of the clan's upper ranks were present. With the patriarch's birthday just 2 days away, They couldn't allow any accidents to occur. On the right side stood members of the Wan clan. The most eye-catching figures in the hall were Wanren Jingshi and Wan Shonyan. The two elderly men were chatting and laughing, seemingly unaffected by the tense atmosphere between the rest of the two families. Brother Shonyan, even though we live in the same city, we haven't seen each other in years despite only being 1,000 meters apart, Wanren Jingshi said with a smile. Yes, sometimes I feel like I don't belong to myself, but to this clan, Wan Shonyan replied after sipping his tea, also smiling. I'm not entirely clear on what happened this time, Wanren Jingshi added. Once Suar arrives, we'll ask. If it's truly as you say, I won't let it slide. Grandpa, what if that guy tries to lie? Wan Hong asked from the crowd. Though he had suffered serious injuries the day before, they were mostly external. With a rebuild body pill and the Wan clan's full care, he had already recovered almost completely. Silence, it's not your place to speak, Wan Shonyan snapped. Then he turned to Wanren Jingshi with a smile and said, I trust Brother Jingshi's fairness. Our Wan clan may not be as glorious as before, but we're not so low that we'll be stepped on. Of course, Wanren Jingshi nodded with a smile. While everyone in the hall whispered among themselves, a servant outside announced the arrival of the two. Wanren Jingshi narrowed his eyes and said, Let them in. Soon, under everyone's watchful eyes, Su Zimo helped a heavily bandaged Wanren Suo into the hall. Seeing Wanren Suo like this, Wanren Jingshi frowned slightly and asked, What happened here? It's nothing, Grandpa. Wanren Suo shook his head. Just a small conflict among the younger generation. Nothing serious. Wanren Jingshi looked at his bandaged grandson, then at the now lively and energetic Wan Hong. His expression darkened slightly as he turned calmly to Wan Shonyan and said, Brother Shonyan, I think you owe me an explanation this time. Wan Shonyan frowned slightly and looked at Wanren Suo. The bandages weren't fake, he could see the injuries were real. Wanren Suo, explain everything in full. Leave nothing out. Didn't Brother Wan Hong tell you already? Wanren Suo looked a bit surprised. He then explained, Last night at Feather Porch Pavilion, we had a dispute over Lady Siener, and Brother Wan Hong and I fought. We exchanged over 30 moves. I seriously injured him and he beat me into the state too. That's the truth. You're lying. Wan Hong nearly jumped up in anger. His face turned red as he shouted. You two ambushed me and left me seriously wounded. When did I fight 30 rounds with you? Brother Wan Hong, you need evidence to support your words, Su Zimo said calmly. You're saying you didn't fight. Then how did my cousin get so badly hurt? Are you saying I beat him myself? Hearing that, Wanren Suo raised an eyebrow and glanced at Su Zimo with slight resentment. You're spouting nonsense. I didn't even get a chance to fight back. They just beat me, Wan Hong yelled. Wan Shonyan frowned slightly and looked at Wanren Suo. If you were seriously injured, why didn't anyone in the Wanren household know about it last night? That's the difference between the Wanren clan and your Wan clan, Wanren Suo said with a shake of his head. Your disciples get hurt and immediately run to the elders. But to us, it's just a minor scuffle among the younger generation. Getting a little injured is inevitable. After all, when we venture out into the world, we'll face life and death situations. We can't always rely on the clan's protection, right? He said this with a dismissive tone, looking down on Wan Hong. Can't handle it, can you? Hearing that, Wan Hong felt a tightness in his chest, and his old injury seemed to flare up again. Minor injuries? I was almost killed. If it wasn't for that rebuild body pill, I'd have been crippled forever. And you're calling it a minor injury? The more he thought about it, the more suffocated he felt, until finally his face turned bright red and he couldn't help but vomit blood and collapse unconscious. When Wan Hong hit the ground, the Wan clan members didn't react in time. Wanren Suo quickly tore off his arm bandages and threw himself beside Wan Hong. He cried out dramatically, Brother Wan, what's wrong? Please don't die. Even though we often argued and didn't get along, we've known each other a long time. Don't make me send a black-haired friend to the grave. One of the Wan clan members couldn't take it anymore and stepped forward, face full of black lines. "Say what you want, but could you please not laugh while doing it?" Wanren Suo stood up and scratched his head with a guilty smile, quickly stepping back. "Sorry, I couldn't help it. Go on." A Wan clan member knelt beside Wan Hong and began treating him. Meanwhile, the Wan clan's old master sitting at the head of the hall looked awkward. He had come here full of fury, intending to demand justice. But before anything even happened, this was the result. He sighed internally. Our younger generation's mental toughness is really lacking. Brother Shonyan, how about we let this matter rest? Wanren Jingshi said calmly. Both sides were injured. Let's call it even. Wan Shonyan was silent for a moment, then nodded. He looked around the room and said, I don't want any rumors about this incident spreading in the city. Then he led the Wan clan members out. Compared to their grand entrance, their departure was a bit humiliating. Wanren Jingshi watched them leave, then said sternly, Everyone else leave. You two stay. Su Zimo and Wanren Suo exchanged a glance, then obediently remained in the hall. After everyone left, Wanren Jingshi finally said in a harsh tone, I originally planned to punish you both harshly, but you responded quickly and handled the situation fairly well. However, starting today, you're not allowed to leave the estate. Chapter 452. You were supposed to be a dead man. Yes, the two of them, Su Zimo and Wanren Suo, knew they were in the wrong and didn't argue. The situation in the Phoenix Perch Empire is already chaotic. One small move can affect everything. Be more restrained when you go out from now on, Wanren Jingshi said calmly. He could see the truth of the matter clearly. But standing on the side of the Wanren clan, and without solid evidence, he chose not to expose it. After being lectured for a long time, Su Zimo returned to the courtyard with a downcast Wanren Suo. Looking at his injuries, Wanren Suo said helplessly, Cousin, you really didn't hold back. If you don't sacrifice the pawn, you won't catch the wolf. Su Zimo laughed. Can't make things hard for Grandpa, right? Now it's all smoothed over. As he spoke, Su Zimo handed a healing Empyrean-grade pill to Wanren Suo. After taking the pill, Wanren Suo's injuries began to recover visibly. There are still 3 days until Grandpa's birthday banquet. We're going to be bored out of our minds till then. Wanren Suo sighed. Pity my Lady Siener. Just another bag of flesh and bones. Su Zimo shrugged indifferently. Then cousin, is there someone you like? Wanren Suo asked with a mischievous smile. Su Zimo stayed silent for a moment, thinking of the distant Demon Slayer clan on the Middle Continent, the Lan clan. Life is often more dramatic than fiction. The person he liked was part of the opposing force. One day, he and the Demon Slayer clan would have to settle everything. After all, in their eyes, he was the real demon. Not answering means yes, Wanren Suo grinned. No matter what kind of person I like, I won't be used as someone's pawn, Su Zimo replied calmly. Hearing that reminded me, I still need to help Lady Siener find that dragon tail grass, Wanren Suo said. Then he rushed off to the Wanren clan's medicine pavilion in search of the herb. Su Zimo didn't bother going with him and strolled around the Wanren estate on his own. Though they weren't allowed to leave the grounds, the estate was vast. Su Zimo wandered all around the Wanren clan grounds and eventually found himself by a lake. Weeping willows grew along both shores, and under the scorching summer sun, the lake shimmered with light. In the center of the lake, a lotus flower slowly bloomed. It was purple, an eerie and unusual color. Purple spirit force flowed from it, dyeing the lake water a shade of violet. Purple Dao Lotus. Su Zimo narrowed his eyes, staring at the lake. Once the true weapon of Grand Empress Hongtian, the myriad Dao Lotus was divided into 8 petals. Su Zimo hadn't expected the purple lotus to be hidden in his grandfather's estate. At that moment, a young man was sitting atop the purple lotus. He was cultivating with his eyes closed, his entire body surrounded by dense purple energy that was being absorbed into him. Sensing someone's presence, the young man took in the last strand of energy, exhaled slowly, and opened his eyes. Su Zimo recognized him. He was the one he had seen at Wunrin Jingshi's pavilion during his first meeting with his grandpa. His name was Wunrin Tianming. According to cousin Wunrin Suo, he had originally been a member of a branch clan, but due to his exceptional talent, Grandpa had decided to cultivate him closely. "Need something?" the young man asked, standing on the surface of the lake. He walked across the water without making a single ripple, then stepped onto the shore. "No, I just happened to pass by." Suzimo shook his head slightly, then asked, "Do you have some kind of conflict with my cousin?" To the direct lineage, branch members will always be considered inferior, Wunrin Tianming replied calmly. So they won't accept the fact that someone from a branch is stronger than them. In the Wunrin estate, many people look down on me, not just your cousin. "You seem pretty calm about it," Suzimo said with interest. "You get used to it," Wunrin Tianming shrugged. "Grandfather kept me here and gave me the resources to cultivate. Otherwise, I would have left long ago. Though I might not have done as well on my own, this world is vast. I would have found a place for myself somewhere." Suzimo glanced at the myriad Dao purple lotus behind him and understood that Grandpa was grooming him with full effort. Maybe Wunrin Tianming would be the Wunrin clan's contender for heaven's will in this generation. When it came to fate and the legacy of a clan lasting for millennia, there was no difference between branch and direct, only loyalty mattered. "No matter what, Wunrin Suo is still my cousin. Unless he truly does something unforgivable, you'd better not kill him," Suzimo said. Now that Wunrin Tianming had Grandpa's support, his wings were fully spread. With his own talent and such focused cultivation, his future was boundless, unless he got himself killed. As for his cousin, Suzimo could tell he couldn't match this opponent. "Why should I give you face?" Wunrin Tianming asked coldly. He didn't care for the Wunrin clan's direct descendants, and since Suzimo was close to Wunrin Suo, he wasn't about to be polite. "Why?" Suzimo smiled and slowly drew his saber. "Shadow Tyrant. Is this saber enough? You dare to threaten me?" Wunrin Tianming narrowed his eyes. Suzimo never played by the rules. He actually wanted to kill the guy outright, to eliminate any future threat to his cousin, especially since Suzimo would soon be gone from the northern continent for a long time. But because of his grandfather, Suzimo held back. "How about this? Take one slash from me. If you can withstand it, I'll walk away and act like I was never here. If you can't, then you do what I just said," Suzimo said calmly, holding Shadow Tyrant. "That's not a fair deal. If I take it, you do what I ask," Wunrin Tianming replied. "Confident, aren't you?" Suzimo shook his head. He could tell Wunrin Tianming was at the early stage of the Imperial Meridian realm. Clearly, Grandpa had given him plenty of resources. He was a true prodigy now. A bit of arrogance was understandable. Suzimo slowly raised his saber. He had learned a meridian technique called sword drawing technique. He didn't embellish it with fancy tricks. He simply poured the pure speed of the technique into the slash. It was an extremely simple strike. But in its simplicity, it carried a kind of return-to-origin feeling. Wunrin Tianming didn't even see Suzimo's motion. Before he knew it, the hair knot on top of his head was cut cleanly off, and the saber's energy continued forward, slicing a weeping willow behind him in two. "You were supposed to be a dead man," Suzimo said calmly. "You should be grateful you're a member of the Wunrin clan." Chapter 453, Stealing Candy from a Little Girl. Wunrin Tianming felt a slight sting on his neck. He gently touched it and found a bit of blood. There was a small wound. "Was that a warning?" he asked with a serious expression, looking at Suzimo. The memory of that strike just now still lingered in his mind. Suzimo wasn't wrong. If he hadn't held back, this wound would have been far worse. "Who exactly are you?" Wunrin Tianming asked. "You already know, don't you?" Suzimo replied with a faint smile. "Maybe if I said I'm the current holy son of the true martial sacred ground, that would be easier for you to accept." Wunrin Tianming fell silent. He had always been very confident in his own talent. Even those so-called peerless geniuses from the Middle Continent were just at the Imperial Meridian realm. He believed that compared to those geniuses, He had the qualifications to compete for heaven's will in this generation. But just now, that single, seemingly ordinary strike shattered all his pride. He realized he didn't even have the power to resist. It was like there was an uncrossable chasm between them. "I'll keep my promise," Wanren Tianming said after taking a deep breath. Su Zimo nodded and said nothing more, then turned and slowly strolled away from the lake, continuing his walk through the Wanren estate. At dusk, the sunset painted half the sky red. Clouds glowed in the horizon, drifting lazily in midair. From the branches in the distance, a few lonely birds rustled leaves as they took flight. Su Zimo had planned to return to his courtyard. Halfway there, a little girl with 2 chubby braids walked toward him. She held a stick of candied hawthorn and wore a light blue dress. She looked very cute, with a bit of baby fat on her cheeks. Her eyes were bright and lively. As they passed each other, Su Zimo glanced at her out of curiosity. Unexpectedly, the little girl turned her head and snapped, "What are you looking at? Want me to gouge your eyes out?" "Wow, such a fierce temper for someone so young," Su Zimo chuckled. "Do you know who I am?" The girl sized him up and said, "You're one of the new servants, right?" "What's it to you?" Su Zimo replied with a laugh. "You dare talk to me like that?" She huffed, then proudly said, "I'm Wanren Yao. My dad is Wanren Yao. Are you scared now?" TL note: yes, same names but in Chinese these 2 words, Yao, are pronounced and written differently. Su Zimo paused. Wanren Yao was his eldest uncle, which meant this unfamiliar little girl was his cousin. He looked at her arrogant expression and shook his head slightly. Then he quickly snatched the candied hawthorn from her hand and ate the whole thing in one bite. He handed back the empty stick and walked away without looking back. The little girl was stunned for a moment. She looked at the stick in her hand, then at Su Zimo's departing figure. And then, "Wah!" She burst into tears. By the time Su Zimo returned to the courtyard, it was already getting dark. Cousin Wanren Suo was slouched in the pavilion, looking listless. "What's wrong?" Su Zimo asked curiously as he walked over. "Can't find dragon tail grass," Wanren Suo said. "I'm afraid I'll break my promise to Lady Siener. Dragon tail grass might only be a universe-grade herb, but it's extremely rare." Su Zimo shook his head. "The conditions for it to grow are too strict. That's why it's so scarce. It must be nourished by true dragon blood to grow. And ever since the early days of the Imperial era, when the Sky Shroud War God wiped out the dragon race, they had nearly gone extinct. Where could you even find true dragon blood now? Of course, the dragon gods in Su Zimo's god world didn't count. Don't bother with it anymore," Su Zimo laughed. "By the way, I wanted to ask, do you know Wanren Yao?" "That girl," Wanren Suo nodded. "She's Uncle Yao's daughter, spoiled since birth, completely a little princess. No one dares scold or punish her. With that bitter expression on your face, looks like you're annoyed by everyone," Su Zimo teased. "Sigh, in this family, I have no status." Wanren Suo shook his head. "I used to push around the branch members a bit. Now even some of them have started stepping all over me." Su Zimo chuckled. He knew Wanren Tianming was who he meant. Still, he reminded him, "Try not to provoke him. You're no match." Su Zimo stayed in the Wanren estate with Wanren Suo for 7 days. During that time, Su Zimo mostly focused on cultivating. Wanren Suo, on the other hand, spent all day thinking about his Lady Siener. Today was their grandfather's birthday celebration. Su Zimo and Wanren Suo got up early and headed to the main courtyard. At dawn, the white light at the horizon gradually shifted into a purple sun rising in the east. The Wanren estate was decorated from end to end. All the family members had gathered to celebrate. The younger generation, including Su Zimo, had been called to stand in the main hall. A man in a red robe stood at the front, explaining the day's rules. Su Zimo recognized him. It was his eldest uncle, Wanren Yao. "Today, all the prestigious figures and nobles of the Phoenix Perch Empire will attend," Wanren Yao said sternly. "Whatever you do, behave yourselves. This is your grandfather's birthday." Nothing can go wrong. Anyone who messes up will not be forgiven. Do you all understand? Understood. The youths responded with energy. Su Zimo glanced around. The current generation of Wunrin clan's direct descendants numbered a dozen or so. They were sons and daughters of his eldest, second, and youngest uncles, as well as his aunt. His own mother was the youngest in this generation, and he was her only child. After Wunrin Yao finished giving instructions and the group dispersed, Wunrin Yao suddenly saw Su Zimo. She ran up to her father, pouting and complaining, "Daddy, it was him. He stole my candied hawthorn yesterday. You have to make it right for me." Su Zimo immediately noticed the situation from nearby. Wunrin Yao smiled and shook his head, then called out, "Little Zimo." Su Zimo felt a little awkward but still walked over quickly. As he reached them, he greeted, "Uncle." Before Wunrin Yao could say anything, Su Zimo affectionately patted Wunrin Yao's head and smiled. "Little cousin Yao, wasn't the market in the Western City fun yesterday? Wasn't that candied hawthorn I bought for you delicious?" Chapter 454, Gathering of Powers. "When did you buy me candied hawthorn?" Wunrin Yao looked at Su Zimo in surprise. She quickly said, "You obviously stole mine and ate it." "Don't make a scene," Su Zimo scolded lightly. "Are you upset because I didn't buy you more? You can't eat too much of that stuff, it's bad for your teeth, kid. If you really want some, after Grandpa's birthday celebration, I'll take you again tomorrow." Without giving Wunrin Yao a chance to argue, Su Zimo looked up and smiled at Uncle Yao. "Uncle, if there's nothing else, I'll go now. Cousin Suwa is looking for me." "Sure, go ahead." Wunrin Yao nodded slightly. Su Zimo quickly left the scene, feeling a little awkward. Even though it wasn't a big deal, stealing candy from a little kid wasn't something he wanted others to talk about. "Daddy, he's lying," Wunrin Yao said, almost crying again. "Don't cry. Today is Grandpa's birthday." Wunrin Yao picked her up and comforted her with a smile. "Didn't your cousin say he'll take you tomorrow?" The little girl pouted unhappily and muttered, "Who wants to be that guy's cousin anyway?" Not long after dawn, guests were already lining up at the gates of the Wunrin clan estate. Wunrin Yao and Wunrin Zhao were outside welcoming them. Grandfather Wunrin Jingshi and Uncle Wunrin Teng were inside the main hall. Over a dozen members of the younger generation stood neatly at the side. In the spacious courtyard, dozens of tables made of enlightenment wood were set up. Enlightenment wood was known to enhance one's comprehension abilities. Clearly, the Wunrin clan had gone to great lengths for this birthday celebration. On the tables were freshly made dishes, not from ordinary ingredients. There were dishes made with southern flour paste, purple peony soup, braised meat from black flame dragon beasts, cold dishes from 9 nether ice lions, extremely rare celestial herbs and exotic beast meats that most people would never see in their lifetime were now casually laid out. All the herbs used were at least of the star grade, with none below that. "Brother Yao, Brother Zhao, long time no see." At the gate, more and more guests arrived, and a line had already formed. People were greeting one another. "Brother Zhua, it's been several years since we last met on Mount Heavenflame," Wunrin Zhao said with a smile. After accepting the gift and a few polite exchanges, a branch member led the guest into the estate. Usually, birthday gifts would be announced aloud by servants. But the Wunrin clan chose to keep a low profile. They didn't announce the gift details. Only the names of the guests were reported. After all, everyone attending was already a person of status. There was no need to compare. Not just anyone could be invited here. Sect Master Zhua Bufan of the Heaven Moon Sect, along with his disciples, has come to celebrate. Wishing Elder Wunrin a long and prosperous life. Prince Ji Chongyu of the Phoenix Perch Empire, along with his son, has come to offer blessings. May Lord Wunrin's path to immortality be eternal and everlasting. As more and more people arrived, the entire Wunrin estate became increasingly lively and harmonious. Wunrin Jingshi sat at the highest seat, occasionally chatting with guests who came forward to greet him. Everyone was talking when another loud announcement came from outside. Tranquil Prince Yu Yunfei, along with his son, has come to offer birthday wishes to Elder Wonrin. The moment this announcement was made, it drew everyone's attention. Even Su Zimo looked toward the gate, curious about this tranquil prince. The Wonrin clan's influence is strong. I didn't expect even Tranquil Prince to show up. He's been living in seclusion since the heretic god cult was wiped out. People around began murmuring. What's so strange about that? Back then, the Wonrin clan helped him destroy the heretic god cult. He couldn't have done it alone. Amid the discussion, a middle-aged man and a young man walked in through the gate. The middle-aged man had a noble air, wearing a gray-white robe, though his face was slightly pale. His hair was half black and half white, tied neatly at the back of his head. He had a short beard and looked like a scholarly gentleman, elegant and approachable. When he approached Wonrin Jingshi, he bowed slightly and said, "Greetings, Elder Wonrin. I will never forget the kindness you showed me at Crane Mountain." Wonrin Jingshi waved his hand with a smile and said, "It was nothing. You're far more capable than my useless sons. Back then, you were the one I thought had the most promise among your generation." Tranquil Prince gave a small bow in gratitude and sat down nearby. Perhaps sensing Su Zimo's gaze, he turned and made eye contact with him from afar. It was hard to believe that this refined man was once the martial god who nearly wiped out the heretic god cult. As more people arrived, not just from the Phoenix Perch Empire but also from other empires, the celebration drew a wide audience. Even the old master of the Wan family brought a gift. Guests kept arriving one after another, and when the final announcement came, everyone straightened up. His Majesty Ji Yunzhou of the Phoenix Perch Empire, along with Empress Tianshang and their 3 princes, has come to celebrate Elder Wonrin's birthday. This announcement marked the arrival of the most important guests. The name Ji Yunzhou was known across the entire northern continent. 5 figures slowly walked in under everyone's gaze. Leading them were 2 people. The man wore a yellow robe embroidered with several 8-clawed golden dragons. He exuded power. His deep eyes seemed to hold the stars of the universe. Unlike Tranquil Prince's scholarly air, this man's presence was overwhelmingly domineering. It carried a sense of submit or perish. Beside him was a woman in a luxurious red silk gown, with light makeup and the aura of an empress. They were none other than the Emperor and Empress of the Phoenix Perch Empire. Behind them followed 3 elegant young men, the 3 princes. Though their clothes weren't overly ornate, they naturally carried a regal presence. Unlike others, all 3 had reached the Imperial Meridian realm, true prodigies. Everyone in the empire knew the royal family had a complicated relationship with the 2 great clans. The dynasty sought full control of the empire, and its greatest obstacle was the Wonrin and Wan clans. Yet the 3 sides had never openly turned against each other. Chapter 455, Imperial Duel. With the arrival of Emperor Ji Yunzhou, the crowd, after a brief commotion, quieted down. "Congratulations to Elder Wonrin on your birthday," Ji Yunzhou said with a light smile as he approached Wonrin Jingshi. The Empress Tianshang followed and offered her greetings as well. Behind them, the 3 princes bowed slightly and also extended their congratulations. "How has Brother Changli been these years?" Wonrin Jingshi asked with a smile. The Brother Changli he mentioned was the former emperor, Ji Changli. Ji Yunzhou had been heavily groomed from a young age, and once he gained enough authority, Ji Changli passed the throne to him and went into seclusion, rarely appearing in public since. "Father has entered closed-door seclusion," Ji Yunzhou replied calmly. Wonrin Jingshi paused briefly. He knew Ji Changli's cultivation level, they were from the same generation. Now that he was in seclusion again, likely seeking a breakthrough, that statement carried some weight and couldn't be ignored. In fact, the 2 major clans had secretly been keeping an eye on the imperial court for years. "Please have a seat," Wonrin Jingshi said with a smile. As everyone took their seats, guests from across the Phoenix Perch Empire chatted and socialized. They were all familiar with one another. 3 main factions were apparent. One led by the Wan clan, one by Emperor Ji Yunzhou, and the last by Tranquil Prince, Yu Yunfei. I'm very grateful to everyone for attending this old man's birthday celebration. Wonrin Jingshi stood and said with a smile, "Since we all live in the Phoenix Perch Empire, I hope the Wonrin clan and all of you can continue to support one another. I won't say too much. Let the banquet begin." The crowd responded politely, though their true feelings remained unknown. Branch clan members of the Wonrin clan began bringing in the dishes. Beside the banquet area, a newly built platform stood. A group of performers in colorful costumes went up to the stage and began their act. Their performance resembled acrobatics and common street tricks. Yet even the martial cultivators in the crowd watched with amusement and gave occasional commentary. At that moment, Emperor Ji Yunzhou suddenly stood. He looked around at the audience and turned to Wonrin Jingshi. "Elder Wonrin, I have a proposal, what do you think?" Ji Yunzhou smiled. "We rarely get the chance to all gather like this. I have 6 princes and 1 princess. I won't mention the rest, but the 3 princes here today rarely leave the palace and haven't seen what true prodigies are like. The Wonrin clan is one of the top powers in our empire, and now that your juniors are all present for your birthday celebration, perhaps they could spar with my sons. Let them experience firsthand that there's always someone stronger." The crowd grew interested and turned their eyes to the stage. Before Wonrin Jingshi could respond, Wonrin Yao frowned and said uncomfortably, "Your Majesty, today is my father's birthday. I ask you to please restrain yourself." "It's fine." Wonrin Jingshi waved it off with a smile. He said, "The 3 princes are well known throughout the empire for their talents. If we're to call this a challenge, it's nothing more than a friendly exchange. My own grandsons may not even be their match." Seeing Wonrin Jingshi's squinting smile, Ji Yunzhou sneered inwardly, "Old fox." The two were clearly trying to outplay each other in front of the crowd. Ji Yunzhou wanted to use this opportunity to let his sons gain prestige by defeating Wonrin clan members. Wonrin Jingshi, of course, wasn't going to sit back quietly. "Yongning, go give it a try." Ji Yunzhou waved his hand. The Crown Prince Ji Yongning stepped forward. He held his head high and chest out, standing like a straight spear. He cupped his hands and said boldly, "Which prodigy from the Wonrin clan will face me?" "Have the performers step down," Wonrin Jingshi ordered. The troupe quickly left the platform. Wonrin Jingshi paused a moment, then said, "Lear, go give it a try." From among the juniors, Wonrin Li stepped forward. The two cupped their hands to each other, then rose into the air and landed on the stage. "Cousin Zimo, do you think my big brother can win?" Wonrin Suo asked nervously. "How would I know?" Su Zimo shrugged. "They haven't fought yet, and I don't know either of them." The crowd watched the duel with interest. After all, the younger generation represented the future of each faction. Observing them now could say a lot about what was to come. "I heard the Crown Prince Ji Yongning was thrown into the army camps as a child. He never got special treatment and fought in real battles. He's a killer who crawled out of a sea of blood. Even so, Wonrin Li was reportedly sent to the Heavenly Dao Academy in the Middle Continent when he was young. We don't know much about him, but he likely has his own strengths." Ignoring the crowd's chatter, the two figures on the stage stood facing each other. Their auras began to rise steadily. Though both were in the Imperial Meridian realm, their auras felt very different. Wonrin Li's aura was light and ethereal, surrounded by drifting green spiritual energy, sometimes gathering, sometimes flowing. In contrast, when Ji Yongning released his aura, fierce, blood-red faces formed in the air, roaring with killing intent. Thick, oppressive blood fog merged with his killing aura. Wonrin Li slowly drew his 3-foot green blade from his waist. He slashed, sending 3 afterimages toward Ji Yongning. Ji Yongning, dressed in black, moved gracefully with the sword's rhythm. His fists clenched tightly, pulsing with blood-red energy. Blade met fist, neither side giving an inch. Then, Ji Yongning turned his right fist into a palm, grabbing Wonrin Li's sword directly. With his left, he swung a heavy punch forward. Explosive crackles echoed around them. Wonrin Li's eyes narrowed slightly. His sword suddenly burst with intense sword energy, shaking Ji Yongning's hand away. He then quickly retreated. That opening exchange, it looks like the Crown Prince has the upper hand, someone in the crowd whispered. With the probing done, Wonrin Li no longer held back. Chapter 456, A Clash of True Fates. A surge of terrifying energy burst out behind Wonrin Li, tearing through the surrounding space with explosive roars. His true fate emerged, a colossal celestial crane. This crane stood 100 meters tall, its feathers a deep violet black. It had 8 claws, 2 long and slender legs, and a violet crest on its head. On its forehead was a crescent-shaped mark, and its eyes were gloomy and cold. Its long beak let out a sharp, piercing cry. "Let's end this quickly," Wonrin Li said calmly. "Gladly," Ji Yongning nodded. His own true fate manifested, causing the space around him to shift. It was a terrifying evil spirit, its presence so sinister that just looking at it sent a chill down one's spine. The spirit was relatively thin, its entire body wrapped in a mixture of black and blood-red energy. A single horn grew from its forehead, and large, heavy ears bore 2 iron ring-like ornaments. Its eyes radiated evil, and a thick killing aura surged around it. "I heard the guardian beast of Heavenly Dao Academy is a violet moon celestial crane," Tranquil Prince Yu Yunfei said quietly to someone beside him. "That's right. The violet moon celestial crane has lived for 3 million years. It's a true immortal beast. And that evil spirit behind Ji Yongning isn't simple either. It's an abomination born from the slaughter of millions, formed by fusing all their resentment and killing aura." Back on the platform, the tension had reached its peak. The crane let out a high-pitched cry, and holy light shone from its wings. Any evil energy touched by that light melted away like early spring snow, instantly cleansed. The crane shot down like lightning, its razor-sharp talons slashing toward the evil spirit. Ji Yongning took a deep breath. The spirit looked up at the celestial crane and, without anyone noticing, suddenly held a massive iron hammer. The hammer was 10 feet long, jet black, with indistinct carvings on it. The spirit raised the hammer and slammed it toward the sky. There was a deafening boom, but the space didn't shatter as expected. Instead, a shockwave rippled out from the hammer's center. Wherever the wave passed, space solidified. This strike carried a powerful space-locking force. Though the crane broke through the spatial seal, its speed was greatly reduced. "Since I was 8, I've fought on battlefields, killed without number. This evil spirit is formed from over 1 million souls. How can you resist it?" Ji Yongning said. With that, the evil spirit began swinging its hammer repeatedly, unleashing wave after wave of force at the crane. Wonrin Li's face grew serious. Dodging forever wasn't a solution. The crane suddenly cried out and dove directly at the evil spirit. Boom! The hammer, cloaked in infernal fire, smashed into the crane's back. The crane let out a mournful scream as its body was shattered and dispersed into smoke. "Is it over already?" someone in the crowd asked, confused. "No." Tranquil Prince shook his head slightly. He said, "Do you know the trait of the violet moon celestial crane? It's immortal." Just as he finished speaking, 2 sharp cries echoed out, and 2 identical cranes suddenly appeared in the sky. There was no way to tell which was real, perhaps neither was fake. They attacked again, their claws tearing through space. Bang! Bang! The spirit's hammer crushed both cranes. Before anyone could react, 4 more cranes appeared. Then 8, then 16, 32, 64. In just a blink, the sky filled with over 100 celestial cranes. Hundreds of cranes cried out in unison, their presence overwhelming even for the seasoned guests. "At this rate, Ji Yongning's going to get worn down," Wonrin Su said excitedly. "No." Su Zimo shook his head. "Their strengths are about equal. It all comes down to their ability to seize the moment and their combat experience." Hundreds of cranes dove at once, charging fearlessly. Ji Yongning didn't panic. His eyes were sharp, and as the sky filled with cranes, blocking everyone's view, the evil spirit charged. Using its hammer to clear a path, it burst through the swarm and charged directly at Wonrin Li behind them. Though the cranes were many, they couldn't stop the spirit. In an instant it had reached Wonrin Li. Wonrin Li was visibly shocked, clearly not expecting this. The hammer swung down on him with crushing force. Though he was in grave danger, his cranes, now unopposed, rushed straight toward Ji Yongning. Boom! Boom! Two massive explosions shook the area, almost tearing the Wonrin estate apart. Wonrin Jingshi waved his hand, easily containing the blast waves, preventing them from spreading. Back on the stage, the two fighters took the full brunt of the attack. As the dust settled, the stage was covered in a web of cracks. Neither of the fighters had a patch of uninjured flesh left. Bloodied, they collapsed on the ground. Just a spar. Did it really need to be this brutal? Someone murmured. You don't understand. With so many powerful people watching, this match wasn't just for reputation, it was for glory, and more importantly, to earn the favor of Patriarch Wonrin and the Emperor. Someone nearby explained. Looking at the scene, Wonrin Jingshi said calmly, given how it ended, let's call it a draw. No. Someone weakly called out from the stage. A hand rose, and then a figure slowly struggled to their feet. He was badly injured, stumbling and falling several times before finally managing to stand upright. Everyone turned in shock. It was Ji Yongning. He wiped the blood from his face and laughed, a bold, unrestrained laugh. Then he slowly began walking toward Wonrin Li. His steps were light, but each one felt like it pressed against the hearts of everyone watching. Chapter 457 Illusion City, one of the 10 Forbidden Grounds. I started killing on the battlefield at age 8, surviving countless brushes with death. What's this kind of injury to me now? Ji Yongning looked down at Wonrin Li and said coldly, compared to you academy prodigies, I'm someone who lived through blood and fire. Wonrin Li looked weak and heavily wounded. He wanted to say something, but before he could open his mouth, he fainted. That guy's injuries are obviously worse than my big brother's, and yet he still stood up like nothing happened, Wonrin Sua muttered from the side. In terms of raw combat strength, the two are about equal, Su Zimo said with a smile. But cousin Li grew up in an academy. He hasn't experienced many true life and death battles. His willpower is nowhere near his opponent's. Take Li down to get treated, Wonrin Jingshi said calmly. In that case, the match goes to Prince Ji. With that decision made, Ji Yongning finally left the stage, clearly exhausted. His movements were slow and careful. Someone tried to help him, but he waved them off. Even in this state, he kept his back straight and walked off proudly. Ji Yunzu nodded at him with a satisfied smile. Beside him, the second prince, Ji Yongzhou, frowned slightly and immediately stepped forward. He looked toward the younger generation of the Wonrin clan and asked in a booming voice, "Who dares to fight?" The juniors of the Wonrin clan looked at each other, their eyes burning with battle intent. They turned to Wonrin Jingshi, asking for permission. Tianming, just make sure you win, Wonrin Jingshi said with a wave of his hand. Wonrin Tianming nodded silently and stepped onto the stage. Ji Yongzhou also stepped up, his voice like thunder. Let's not waste time. Let's settle this in one move. Wonrin Tianming nodded slightly in agreement. As soon as Ji Yongzhou finished speaking, his aura surged. Behind him, golden light burst out and a spirit resembling a ghost appeared. Unlike Ji Yongning's evil ghost, Ji Yongzhou's was more like a benevolent ghost. It had a Buddha-like smiling face and was laughing loudly. Its body was covered in golden energy, and it held a golden mace. The ghost laughed eerily while advancing on Wonrin Tianming. It looked fat, waddling forward like a roly-poly toy. Every step it took shook the stage and echoed loudly. Wonrin Tianming remained calm. Misty energy flowed around him, enveloping the entire stage. With a wave of his right hand, the mist condensed. In an instant, he had created an identical copy of Ji Yongzhou's benevolent ghost. Seeing this, Ji Yongzhou frowned and sent his ghost forward with a punch. Boom! Both ghosts were knocked back equally, neither gaining the upper hand. What's going on? Ji Yongzhou asked in shock. How do you have my true fate? Wonrin Tianming didn't answer. He waved his hand again, and now, along with the benevolent ghost, an evil ghost identical to Ji Yongning's appeared. "It's manifestation," Su Zimo said with interest from the sidelines. Seeing that, he finally understood why his grandfather was nurturing Wenren Tianming, despite him being a branch family member. Manifestation is an extremely powerful ability, but it's not something one can casually obtain or use as their true fate. Legend says that among the 10 forbidden grounds of the primordial heartlands, there's a place called Illusion City. It's a floating city in the sky, said to be a remnant from ancient mythic times. The city constantly drifts through the air and is extremely difficult to locate. It's said that anyone who enters the city gains a mysterious power, the ability to manifest anything they imagine into reality. But the price of gaining this power is being trapped in Illusion City forever. No matter how powerful one's cultivation is, they eventually die of old age inside as a mortal. Of course, all things have a sliver of hope. Those who enter the city must face a test. If they pass, they don't have to stay. Instead, Illusion City will grant them a manifestation crystal. Sounds simple, but in all of history, very few people have returned. 99% of those who enter die there, trapped for life. Su Zimo guessed that Wenren Tianming had entered Illusion City and returned safely, gaining the power of manifestation. Back on the stage, the battle was in full swing. Ji Yongzhou's benevolent ghost was being thoroughly suppressed. Wenren Tianming controlled his manifested ghosts, the evil and the good, and sandwiched Ji Yongzhou's true fate in the middle, striking from both sides. Before long, a scream rang out as Ji Yongzhou's true fate was shattered. He collapsed and didn't move. Wenren Tianming looked down at him coldly, waved his hand, and the two ghosts vanished. Then he walked off the stage calmly. Ji Yongning helped Ji Yongzhou off the stage. Before he left, Ji Yongning gave Wenren Tianming a deep look. Wenren Tianming usually kept a low profile. The royal court knew little about him. He always stayed near Wenren Jingshi and rarely appeared or did anything particularly noteworthy. But after this match, the royal family officially marked him for close observation. At this point, Ji Yongzhou looked pale from the damage to his true fate. He lowered his head in shame before Ji Yunzu. "Victory and defeat are normal. You lost fair and square," Ji Yunzu said flatly. To return from Illusion City, one of the 10 forbidden grounds, means that young man is no ordinary person, and we had no intel on him. He's hidden himself well. "Father, let me fight the next match," said the last remaining prince, stepping forward. "Go. I don't care much about win or loss in a spar, but winning would be best." Ji Yunzu nodded. The last prince nodded. Unlike the other two princes, he wore a light yellow robe embroidered with several six-clawed serpents. He had fair skin, a high-nose bridge, and a very handsome appearance. As he stepped onto the stage, the crowd fell silent. "That's the 7th prince, right?" someone whispered. Chapter 458 Ji Juqing, only use one spear. 7th prince, is it really him? Someone exclaimed in shock. Although many people hadn't lived in Phoenix Wing City for years, they had still heard plenty about the legendary 7th prince Ji Juqing. Compared to the other royal princes born from the empress and raised in the palace, Ji Juqing was a child of a concubine. He had been born in an ordinary village of commoners. It was said that back then, Ji Yunzu had not yet ascended as emperor. On a mission to the south, he encountered a woman. Their feelings blossomed in a misty, rainy land, known for its fertile fields and flowing rivers. Later, Ji Yunzu left Jiangnan and eventually inherited the imperial throne. The woman, unwilling to affect his reputation, quietly left with her newborn child. From then on, there was no trace of them. Over a decade later, a young man named Yu Juqing began to make a name for himself across the Phoenix Perch Empire. In the deep sea lived a 9-meter-long water dragon that often preyed on nearby fishing villages. The youth Yu Juqing, armed with a spear, slew the beast in a sea of blood. He drew out its tendons, peeled its bones, and cooked its meat before the villagers. On an unnamed mountain, the Yin Yang cult practiced sinister dual cultivation techniques, sacrificing the essence blood of virgin boys and girls, while pillaging and murdering around Phoenix Cry City. Yu Juqing climbed the mountain alone, massacred the cult, bathed the mountain in blood, and left no corpses behind. His spear pointed the way. As a teenager, he traveled across the Phoenix Perch Empire, visiting 36 cities, acting with chivalry and honing his martial arts. Later, when the heretic god cult rose, he joined forces with Tranquil Prince and fought bravely in battle. He once infiltrated the heretic god cult alone and killed the cult leader's son. Even when chased by 3 cultivators of the Imperial Meridian Realm, he turned the tables mid-escape and made a name for himself across the empire. His courage, talent, and character were one in a million. Many called him the strongest of his generation in Phoenix Perch. Eventually, Ji Yunzu learned of his identity and recognized him as his son. Yu Juqing changed his name to Ji Juqing. He officially became the 7th prince of the Phoenix Perch Empire. His story was pure grassroots success. Even without recognition from Ji Yunzu, he would have carved out his own path. As Ji Juqing stepped forward, the younger generation of the Wunren clan fell silent. They had heard his name, of course, and none dared to claim a guaranteed win. "Are you going up?" Ji Juqing asked Wunren Tianming. "I already fought once," Wunren Tianming replied calmly. "If I go again, it'll look like the Wunren clan has no one else." Ji Juqing didn't insist. His gaze swept across the crowd and he chuckled. "Anyone willing to teach me a thing or two?" The Wunren side went quiet. The score was currently 1 win and 1 loss. The third match now carried significant weight. No one had the confidence to defeat Ji Juqing, and no one wanted to take responsibility if they lost. "I'll go if no one else does," Wunren Suo muttered in frustration. "You? He'll beat you like a drum." Su Zimo shook his head. "Better than hiding like a coward." Wunren Suo shot back. Su Zimo smiled, shook his head, and calmly stepped forward. "Grandfather, let me give it a try," he said to Wunren Jingshi with a smile. Wunren Tianming glanced at Su Zimo with a deep look but said nothing. Wunren Jingshi seemed disappointed with the Wunren juniors, but finally nodded. "Be careful. Winning isn't everything." "Who is this young man? A branch member? Doesn't look like the main family," people whispered. Ji Yunzu looked at Su Zimo with interest. "You're from the Wunren clan?" Ji Juqing asked Su Zimo. "My mother is Wunren Yun. What do you think?" Su Zimo replied. "You're from the true martial sacred ground," Ji Juqing immediately realized. Over the years, the imperial family had kept close tabs on the 2 great clans. When Wunren Yun married the vice lord of the true martial sacred ground, it caused quite a stir in the Phoenix Perch Empire. The true martial sacred ground, home to 4 emperors, was a force that even the entire empire couldn't match. Even among the 4 great regions of the Middle Continent, few could rival it. "I've always wanted to test myself against prodigies from other continents, especially one from the true martial sacred ground," Ji Juqing smiled. With that, he exuded a powerful aura and stepped onto the stage with great presence. Su Zimo remained calm and slowly walked onto the stage. "Father, who do you think will win?" asked Yu Chong, son of Tranquil Prince. "I don't know the young man across from Juqing, so I have no opinion," Yu Yunfei replied. "But Juqing is the most outstanding young man I've seen in recent years." Ji Juqing had once fought alongside Yu Yunfei in the war against the heretic god cult, so he was well aware of his strength. "There's more than just the northern continent, you know. You've never been to other continents, father," Yu Chong protested. "There might be even stronger prodigies out there." Yu Yunfei simply smiled and said no more. His attention remained fixed on the stage. On stage, Su Zimo stood lazily in a purple robe, clearly not taking the match too seriously. Ji Juqing, in his yellow robe adorned with 6-clawed serpents, stood firm as his hair billowed without wind. His aura rose steadily. Even without attacking, cracks had already formed across the stage beneath him. "Please," Ji Juqing said, bowing slightly towards Su Zimo. "If I make a move, you probably won't even have a chance to resist," Su Zimo said with a smile. Go ahead and use your strongest move. Don't say I didn't give you a chance. Otherwise, you'll have no excuse when you lose. You're confident, Su? Ji Zhouqing replied with a light laugh, unfazed. As he spoke, the space around him began to ripple. A spear appeared from the void. It was 2 meters long, deep red in color, with a silver tip and ancient inscriptions carved along the shaft. As Ji Zhouqing grasped the spear, its intent surged like a mighty river crashing into the eastern sea, piercing through the sky. The spear hummed with joy. When I journeyed through the 36 cities, it was with this spear in hand, Ji Zhouqing said calmly. Today, I will strike only once. If you can take it, I'll admit defeat. Chapter 459. I'm afraid I'll kill you. Ji Zhouqing looked at Su Zimo with a calm gaze. The spear in his hand radiated a sky-piercing spear intent. A crimson aura surged around the spear. The surrounding space first cracked, then completely collapsed. Explosions echoed around them. This must be the 7th Prince's self-created spear technique. Some knowledgeable people in the crowd whispered curiously. Yes, it's said to be called Heaven Grasp Spear, a move the 7th Prince developed after grasping the true essence of the spear Tao and merging it with the Tao of space. Someone nearby explained. At such a young age, the 7th Prince already has these accomplishments. He might have a real shot at becoming the next emperor. On the platform, the aura from Ji Zhouqing's spear was hellish and murderous, so potent it became tangible. Behind him, a massive illusory spear materialized, identical in form but far larger in size. The surrounding space could no longer withstand the spear's pressure. If it weren't for Wenren Jingshi suppressing the area, the space for 100 miles around would have been obliterated. In the sky above, wind surged and clouds rolled. The crimson energy dyed the spear blood red, looking like it was engulfed in flames. As Ji Zhouqing moved, the enormous spear formed from his spear intent followed closely behind. He pointed his spear forward. The giant illusory spear seemed guided by that motion. In an instant, it shot toward Su Zimo. This move was incredibly fast, imbued with spatial power. Without mastery of spatial principles, it would be impossible to dodge. Moreover, the spear intent was deadly, almost solidified from pure killing will. In less than a breath, the massive spear was in front of Su Zimo. But Ji Zhouqing had never expected that one of the 10 styles of Su Zimo's demon was the Realm Demon. This move represented the pinnacle of spatial power. As the space around him distorted, and the spear surged through the void toward his chest, Su Zimo smiled and shook his head. To someone at the peak of the Empyrean Meridian realm like him, this was child's play. It didn't stir the desire to fight. Ji Zhouqing had talent, yes, but he was still just at the Imperial Meridian level. In martial arts, each step in the late stages is like crossing a chasm. The gap was hard to imagine, impossible to take seriously. Su Zimo slowly raised his right hand and gently pinched his fingers together. To many watching, the motion seemed ordinary and unimpressive. But just like that, he pinched the speeding spear between his fingers. Between his index and middle finger, the spear, like a raging dragon, roared and thrashed violently, trying to break free. But it was useless. Su Zimo didn't move an inch, just smiled at Ji Zhouqing's stunned face. The wind from the spear intent fluttered his robe and hair, but he remained still. The force of the spear waned quickly, strong at first, then fading and finally disappearing. The giant spear faded away. Su Zimo stood calmly, having done nothing but pinch with 2 fingers. The entire crowd fell silent. Everyone was stunned, especially the younger generation, whose minds were like turbulent waves. That's it? Someone whispered in disbelief. Was Ji Zhouqing's technique just weak? Or is the opponent too strong? Another murmured. Not just the younger ones, even many seasoned experts were shaken, unable to snap out of it. They knew how strong Heaven Grasp Spear was. But to stop it so casually with 2 fingers, none of them could do that. After a moment, Tranquil Prince recovered and smiled as he looked at Su Zimo. Interesting. Very interesting. What do you mean, father? His son Yuchong asked. This world really is full of hidden dragons and crouching tigers. Yu Yunfei shook his head. I misjudged him. Even the birthday celebrant Wenren Jingshi sat there stunned. He sighed inwardly. I'm getting old. My grandson really hid his strength well. What a surprise. He glanced at Wenren Tianming. In his plan, Tianming had the best temperament and talent of this generation. Clearly the best hope for heaven's will. Even against Ji Juqing, he had confidence. But now, who knew what kind of impact this would have on Tianming's Dao heart? Su Zimo, Emperor Ji Yunzu muttered to himself. He remembered this name being mentioned when the Yellow Division reported recently, with high praise. He hadn't had time to look into it, and now they met like this. I lost, Ji Juqing said, staring solemnly and warily at Su Zimo. He took a deep breath and said heavily, I said I'd only use one spear. I lost. No need to end it like that. I know you're not satisfied, Su Zimo said, shaking his head casually. Use whatever technique you want. To me, one spear or a million makes no difference. Ji Juqing's eyes sharpened. He gripped his spear tighter. Though he didn't care too much about fame or glory, he was still the 7th prince of the Phoenix Perch Empire, renowned across the land. Su Zimo's words clearly showed he didn't take him seriously. His aura surged again. He clearly wanted to continue. But Ji Yunzu's voice came from below. Juqing, step down. You're not on the same level. Even 100 more fights won't change the outcome. Father, Ji Juqing paused, reluctant. You want to humiliate yourself? Ji Yunzu frowned. You represent the royal dignity. In the end, Ji Juqing could only nod helplessly. He held his spear and walked slowly off the stage. That's it, Su Zimo said with some boredom. I was hoping to return the courtesy. Take your spear and give you a punch. Chapter 460. You're not worthy. Hearing Su Zimo's words, Ji Juqing, who had been about to step off the platform, suddenly stopped. His voice hoarse and low, he said, Come, Your Majesty, what do you think? Su Zimo turned and looked at Ji Yunzu, whose face looked rather unpleasant, and asked with a smile, Will the Emperor admit defeat again? Father, in the Ji clan we only fall in battle. We never retreat or admit defeat, Ji Juqing said from the platform. This is my martial path. Wenren Jingshi smiled broadly at the side, clearly enjoying the drama. To admit defeat, twice in a row, no less, would be a serious blow to the royal family's prestige. People would talk about it for years. If you want to fight, then fight, Ji Yunzu replied with a flat expression, though his brow was furrowed deeply. He said, Young Master Su, this is a sparring match, not a life-or-death battle. I know, I'll hold back, but sparring might still lead to injuries, Su Zimo said with a smile. No need to hold back, Ji Juqing replied calmly. If I don't, I'm afraid I'll kill you, Su Zimo responded indifferently. At that moment, a surge of creation power burst from Su Zimo's right hand. He activated the Azure Dragon, and with it came an ancient, earth-shaking dragon's roar that echoed through the skies. Su Zimo moved. In most people's eyes, they saw only a blur, then heard a deafening explosion. A single punch shattered the platform beneath them. Stone fragments flew in all directions. Dust filled the air. At Ji Juqing's location, a deep pit appeared in the ground, bottomless. This showed how terrifying that punch was. As the dust slowly settled, everyone finally saw the scene clearly. Ji Juqing was half kneeling on the ground, clothes in tatters, his body bloodied with not a single uninjured spot. He looked at Su Zimo unsteadily, then collapsed face first and passed out. Juqing, Ji Yunzu called out. The two other princes quickly rushed over to lift Ji Juqing and feed him healing medicine. You went too far, young Master Su, Ji Yunzu said. Eyes narrowed as he stared at Su Zimo. An accident. I only used less than a third my strength, Su Zimo replied. I just didn't expect him to be so weak. Shouldn't Patriarch Wenren give us an explanation for this? Ji Yunzu turned to Wenren Jingshi. Ji Juqing was the son he valued most and had raised with care. Not only because of his talent but also out of guilt, Ji Juqing had grown up alone outside the palace. What kind of explanation? Wanren Jingshi replied coolly. This is my birthday banquet. The sparring match was your idea. In a match, accidents happen. My grandson only used a third of his power, he was already holding back. Your royal family's weakness is not our fault. Fine. Fine. Ji Yunzu took a deep breath. I'll remember what Patriarch Wanren said today. He then looked at Su Zimo. Young Master Su, I won't deny your talent and strength, but the path of martial arts is long and full of twists. Many things can happen along the way. Until you reach the end, you'd better be careful. Is that a threat? Su Zimo asked with a smile. Just a warning, Ji Yunzu replied calmly. Thanks for the warning, Su Zimo said. Then let me give your majesty a piece of advice as well. The primordial heartlands are vast. In my eyes, Phoenix Perch Empire is like a frog at the bottom of a well, ignorant and arrogant. Ji Yunzu narrowed his eyes but said nothing more. After the match ended, the atmosphere grew slightly tense due to the conflict. Ji Yunzu maintained the dignity of an emperor and didn't leave early. Near the end of the banquet, Master Wan Shonyan from the Wan clan approached Wanren Jingshi with a laugh. Wanren, drink with me, he said, raising his cup. If you've got something to say, just say it. Don't beat around the bush, Wanren Jingshi replied in a good mood. This Su Zimo, is he really your grandson? Wan Shonyan asked. If he's not my grandson, is he yours? Wanren Jingshi snapped back. I wish he was, Wan Shonyan muttered, then smiled. Just wanted to confirm. What are you up to? Wanren Jingshi asked warily. Is your grandson engaged? Wan Shonyan asked, revealing his true intention. What's that got to do with you? Wanren Jingshi snorted. You're asking even though you know, Wan Shonyan chuckled. I have a granddaughter, talented in music, chess, calligraphy, and painting. One of the top young women in the whole empire. How about letting them meet? No need, Wanren Jingshi rejected without hesitation. Why not? Wan Shonyan seemed unwilling to give up. My grandson has the potential to shoulder the heaven's will and become a grand emperor. What does your granddaughter have to compare with that? Wanren Jingshi said flatly. She's not worthy. Then he laughed and walked off proudly, clearly feeling vindicated. Old bastard. Wan Shonyan snorted coldly and finally left, unwillingly. By dusk, the birthday banquet came to an end. As guests left one by one, Wanren Yao and Wanren Zhao escorted them out. The events of today would likely spread Phoenix Perch Empire within days. Su Zimo had appeared like a mysterious mist. No one could see through him. The only thing bothering Su Zimo now was that many people had suddenly started proposing marriages through his grandfather. All of them recommended their granddaughters or daughters. Even Wanren Jingshi started to consider it and asked Su Zimo personally. Su Zimo had to find an excuse to dodge the topic. After a few days of rest, it was time for Su Zimo to leave. He didn't have time to waste here. Before he left, Wanren Jingshi asked, Where are you headed? To the sword domain, Su Zimo replied. Wanren Jingshi didn't ask why. Instead, with some concern, he said, You offended Ji Yunzu at the banquet the other day. This won't be a simple matter. Let me send a few of your uncles with you. It's fine, Grandpa. Su Zimo shook his head.